Chapter 1248. It was obvious that Qin Hao's future was destined to be extraordinary. If he did not die prematurely, he had the potential to reach the Emperor realm. He did not expect to bring Qin Hao into the Ning family. Peerless geniuses could only be treated as equals and could not be recruited. The third old ancestor only hoped that Qin Hao and Ning Chaofan would always maintain a certain relationship. If Qin Hao was here, no matter where Ning Chaofan went in the future, Golden Light City would never have to worry about anything. If one day Qin Hao was fortunate enough to reach the Emperor realm, their Golden Light City would also have the right to make important decisions in the entire martial Ning Empire. What they needed to do now was to help Qin Hao as much as possible. In the future, Qin Hao would not forget this friendship. This was a long-term deal. The third old ancestor had foresight. Teacher, third grandfather, and I have inquired about the Jinghua Garden. He and Huang were indeed forcibly captured by the blazing Sun Temple. Ning Chaofan said at this time. The master of the Jinghua Garden was his second grandfather, and Ning Chaofan's grandfather was the eldest. Because he failed to reach the Emperor realm, he had already passed away. The position of city lord was inherited by Ning Chaofan's father. The blazing Sun Temple temporarily stayed in the Jinghua Garden. The place where He and Huang were imprisoned was decided by second grandfather. This relationship was very solid. Ning Chaofan easily met He and Huang and asked about the reason. The two brothers told him that when the coiling dragon wonder collapsed and the hidden dragon's secret realm opened, they were indeed swept in. But midway, they were sent flying by a raging force. The force was too strong, and they could not resist. In the end, they were sent flying far away. Feeling dizzy, they unfortunately met a blazing Sun Temple core elder who was wandering outside. He and Huang were no match for the other party and were forcibly captured. I told them that the Ning family will be in charge of the auction, and that teacher will save them so that they won't have to worry. Ning Chaofan said, Yes. Qin Hao nodded and heaved a sigh of relief. Where are the old demon and Han? This. Ning Chaofan had a helpless look in his eyes. Young Master Qin, forgive my Golden Light City for its limited abilities. This time, the Night Net Palace's palace master came in person. Her name is Yi Ninghong, a 9-star Emperor Realm expert. Her status is on par with my clan's majesty. I really don't dare to ask her for help. The third old ancestor blushed with shame. They were branch lineages and were far from qualified to converse with the Night Net Palace Lord. As for the direct family, there were only a few people who were qualified to make Yi Ninghong look at them seriously. Even the princes of the direct family had to take a detour when they saw Yi Ninghong. Moreover, she was an empress, and her disciples were all female. It was even more inconvenient to barge into the courtyard of a group of women. The slightest carelessness could cost him his life. Thank you for your trouble. Qin Hao thanked the third old ancestor. Meeting and conversing with a 9-star Emperor Realm expert was beyond the ability of Ning Chaofan's family. Qin Hao didn't blame the other party. Since that was the case, he could only wait for the auction to start before confirming whether the old demon was in the Night Net Palace's camp. As for Mistress, there are a total of 3 princes from the Xianyuan family who came on an 8-winged black dragon. One of them is the crown prince, and the other 2 are the second prince and the third prince. Their statuses are also too high, and they're almost the next generation of Southern Pride. I'm a branch member, and I can't negotiate with them directly. Ning Chaofan secretly clenched his fists, looking very unwilling. He was also from the royal family, but in front of others, he appeared to be several levels lower. Of course, he didn't feel good about it. The 3 princes of the Xianyuan family came out at the same time and negotiated with each other. It was easy to stir up trouble if one wanted to find a woman in their group, and it would appear that the martial Ning Empire didn't respect the Southern Pride divine nation. Phew, Qin Hao let out a deep breath. Sure enough, it wasn't easy. The first prince, Xianyuan Wuba, 189 years old this year, has entered the Emperor level, 4-star Emperor Yuan. The second prince, Xianyuan Wuing, 67 years old this year, peak Emperor level, has already glimpsed the Emperor's path. It won't be long before he breaks through to emperor level. The third prince, Xianyuan Weiyao, 40 years old, peak emperor level. It's very difficult to find mistress among them. Ning Chaofan was also extremely anxious. Unless he barged in and searched them one by one with lightning speed, it would be too easy for him to hide someone with a martial monarch realm and two high-level martial monarch's realm cultivators to lay down some restrictions. However, if he searched forcefully, it would be equivalent to declaring war on the Southern Pride Divine Nation. Xianyuan Wuba was the crown prince, the next emperor of the Southern Pride Divine Nation. His status was too high. Understood, there's no need to check. Just wait until tomorrow, and there will be results. Qin Hao said. When the auction started, the people of the Xianyuan family would enter, and whether or not Xiao Han was there would be obvious at a glance. Thank you for your understanding, young Master Qin. This old man is ashamed. The three ancestors said. They were powerless against the direct descendants of the three royal families. However, Master, you don't have to worry too much. Two princes from the Ningwu Empire also came. Among them, the eldest prince, Ning Hongxian, is also the crown prince, and his status is equal to Xianyuan Wuba's. Eldest brother treats people kindly and is a benevolent and righteous ruler. As long as we can confirm that mistress is in the hands of the Xianyuan family, with eldest brother's support, we will definitely come back. Ning Chaofan patted his chest and swore. He seemed to be very confident in his eldest brother. After all, Ning Hongxian was the next emperor of the Ningwu Empire. Thank you for your trouble. I'm a little tired from running around and cultivating. Chaofan, accompany your third grandpa and arrange a place for me to stay. Qin Hao stood up and looked at K-Er. His mood was very heavy. Ning Chaofan nodded and summoned a pretty maid to take Qin Hao to Tianhua courtyard. He could see that his master was not tired, but depressed. Otherwise, why hadn't he rested during the journey? Third grandpa, what do you think of my master's character? Ning Chaofan asked after Qin Hao left. Even if Mount Tai collapsed in front of him, his expression would not change. He is extremely calm and has the demeanor of a mighty ruler. If what you and Yuan said is true, and he possesses the power of three souls, then this person's future is limitless, the third ancestor said seriously. This evaluation was very appropriate and objective. At the same time, it was also very high. After all, he and Qin Hao had just met. He could not tell what kind of person Qin Hao's character was based on the fact that he had saved Ning Chaofan once. Or perhaps the other party was using the Ning family. Well, if my mistress is really under house arrest by Xianyuan Wuba or Xianyuan Wuing, what should we do? Ning Chaofan was most worried about this. This matter is already beyond our ability. It depends on how His Highness Hongxian deals with it, the third ancestor replied. What if he doesn't deal with it? Ning Chaofan asked again. Chao, no matter what happens in the end, you must remember that we are part of the Ning family. The third ancestor patted Ning Chaofan's shoulder and turned to walk into a secret chamber. Ning Chaofan looked at the back of the third ancestor and frowned. The meaning behind his words was very deep. If there was no other choice, was he planning to give up on Qin Hao? After all, the other party was the powerful Xianyuan clan, an overlord of the southern region. And Qin Hao, who was he? After weighing the pros and cons, benefits were indeed more important than friendship. At this moment, Ning Chaofan's feelings were very complicated. If it really came to that, what choice would he make? That night, Qin Hao did not rest. He cultivated the enduring samsara technique and mastered the way of the laws. It would be a lie to say that he was not worried. If Han was really in the hands of the Xianyuan clan, what would they do to her? Just thinking about it scared him. However, according to K.'s perception, Xiao Han was very safe and her mood was relatively calm. If Xiao Han faced great danger and resisted, she could affect K.'s mood. This was in line with the soul connection between Qin Hao and the old demon. The old demon is following the Nightnet Palace Master, and the Nightnet Palace Master is a woman. Could it be he slept with her? Qin Hao thought about it and suddenly shivered. It didn't seem likely, but it did make sense. No, the Nightnet Palace, which had never accepted male disciples, would not allow the old demon to sneak in. There was no point in guessing. Everything would be clear tomorrow. Then, Qin House sank into cultivation again. 23. Education 123 Literature Network. Chapter 1249. The next day, the Martial Ning Empire's once every 5 years auction was held as scheduled. The venue was located in the center of Golden Light City. It occupied a large area, and the central area was almost completely covered. Golden Light City was not only the #1 trading city in the Martial Ning Empire, but it was also famous in the entire southern region. In previous auctions, there was a specially built auction venue. Usually, the auction venue was not open to the public. It would only be shown to the world on this day every 5 years. When the morning bell rang, a ray of white light rose from the east. Golden Light City was instantly awakened. Many powerful demonic beasts flew in the sky, and the void warships rumbled. Many figures rode on swords, and their arrogance soared to the sky. Luxurious carriages were galloping below. The major forces in the east, west, south, and north city, who had rested for the night, gathered in the same direction. It was a huge scale. There were also Four Seas City, Pinghua City, Xiangfan City, and Morong City, the 4 auxiliary cities of Golden Light City. Numerous figures of martial artists spread their wings and flew high into the sky, surging with vitality as they were afraid that they would miss this eye-catching day. Wenhua Park. Qin Hao cultivated for the night and gradually grasped the mysteries of the laws. He had not broken through the threshold and entered the first level of the laws. However, it would be soon. The dog spirit and Xiao were not idle either. Along the way, they were working hard to refine the spiritual beast fruit. Xiao was also a demonic beast. The spiritual beast fruit was also very helpful to her. The dog spirit was now a 7th-level venerable beast, and the speed of its inheritance integration was getting faster and faster. Xiao was still a peak-level venerable beast. It was not easy for her to reach Emperor level. She needed an opportunity. After a simple wash, the 3 of them set off from the Wenhua Park under Ning Chaofan's lead. They followed the Ning family to the auction venue. How spectacular! Xiao looked at the figures of powerful martial artists and demonic beasts in the sky. Her eyes sparkled as she praised. Among the powerful martial artists in the sky, Emperor-level martial artists could be seen everywhere. Not to mention the Emperor-level martial artists. Even the various demonic beasts under their feet were not inferior to Xiao, who had transformed into a rainbow demon sparrow. Today was definitely a sensational day in the southern region. It was even better than the Emperor martial competition that Xiao Yi had held in the northern borderline. At this moment, Qin Hao looked down from the sky and saw the legendary Ning family auction venue. It was an oval-shaped arena that resembled a coliseum. The area was extremely wide, and it could easily accommodate 1 million people. Its interior was divided into 4 major regions, 1 at the front and 3 at the back. It was like a triangular pattern, clearly separated. The module at the very front was the most dazzling. Its entire body was shining with golden light, and a high platform came into view. It should be the auction stage. Behind the auction stage, there was a row of 8 pavilions. According to Ning Chaofan's explanation, the 3 sovereigns and 4 sects each took one. As for the 8th tower, the Ning family had just finished building it half a month ago. It was meant for Dan Ji's members in Western Liang. It could be seen that Great Emperor Ning Wu valued Dango very much. He placed in the ranks of the 3 sovereigns and 4 sects, forming the 8th force. In front of the auction stage was a clean white runway. It was very long and extended into the audience. It was probably for the convenience of the elders and disciples of the various sects to examine the treasures displayed in this year's auction. Auction stage, catwalk stage, 8 pavilions. This was the first area. On the front of the runway, the other 3 major regions were side by side. The purple region in the middle was for the disciples of the 3 sovereigns and 4 sects, as well as the first-rate sect. The blue region on the left was for the aristocrats and ministers of various countries, as well as the second-rate forces. The green region on the right was for wealthy merchants and tycoons, as well as some small guilds and small groups. The four major regions were today's main characters. Only they were qualified to participate in today's auction. In fact, apart from these four regions, there was a huge empty space at the back of the auction house. The area of the empty space was several times larger than the four major regions combined. There was not a single seat in this area. Its existence was for the common people and low-level martial artists. The common people and low-level martial artists were not qualified to participate in the auction. They were only there to serve as a contrast. Regardless of identity, strength, wealth, or status, they were completely unable to compete with a second-rate sect, let alone a first-rate sect or the three sovereigns and four sects that stood at the peak of the southern region. The reason why they were allowed to enter and did not charge any viewing fees was to let these low-level people embellish the auction house's atmosphere. After all, those who were able to sit in the four major regions were all ministers, rich people, sect masters, and even princes. Everyone's status was lofty. During the auction process, no matter how excited they were, they could not shout indiscriminately. This was a matter of face for the royal family and sect. Therefore, at this time, it was the common people and low-level martial artists' turn to show off. They had not seen the world, and their horizons were low. Perhaps the auctioneer would take out a grade 7 pill, or even a beast emperor's leg hair to ignite their emotions. The low-level martial artists would be unable to extricate themselves and would brag to everyone when they went out. The auction house also needed this kind of enthusiasm to show the scale of the auction. Qin Hao entered the auction as Ning Chaofan's teacher. The Golden Light City branch was the descendant of the three sovereigns. Naturally, he had to sit in the purple region. His status was second only to the princes and sect masters in the 8 pavilions. As soon as he entered, he ran into an old acquaintance. "Young friend, why are you here?" A voice called out to Qin Hao. Qin Hao stopped and looked over. He said in surprise, "Qing Lao." The person who spoke was Duanmu Qingwei, who he had met in Star Refining Tower. His true identity was the first elder of the 10,000 Cultivator Union's left faction. Back then, Qin Hao had helped him solve the problem of dividing the Deep Sea Jade Dragon Pearl. "Aya, it really is you. You're still alive?" Gu Huangsho walked in front of Qin Hao with a hunchback. His eyes swept over him, as if he was confirming whether or not this was Qin Hao. When the coiling dragon wonder collapsed, the martial artist at the time had said that a white-haired martial artist had absorbed the dragon spirit and caused a calamity. Later, Duanmu Qingwei thought, could it be Qin Hao? Gu Huangsho naturally had this thought. However, seeing that Qin Hao was safe and sound today, then the person who had collapsed the coiling dragon wonder was clearly not Qin Hao. The two of them looked at each other, regret flashing in their eyes. If it really was Qin Hao who had absorbed the Spirit Emperor's dragon spirit, it was undoubtedly a great opportunity. But, however, this was also good. After all, too many sect disciples had died at the coiling dragon wonder. Fortunately, it had not been Qin Hao who had done it. Otherwise, today's auction would have been Qin Hao's burial ground. He would have been torn to pieces by the various large sect. What? Is Grandmaster Gu hoping that something will happen to me? Qin Hao rubbed his nose and smiled. This old man's conscience was extremely bad. After the auction ended, he would pull him over to study the large Yuan Qi detecting disc. "Teacher, is this someone you know?" At this time, Ning Chaofan also stopped and looked at Duanmu Qingwei and Gu Huangsho. Qin Hao nodded. "Sit down here." As he spoke, he sat down beside Duanmu Qingwei and Gu Huangsho. The seats in the purple area were very large, like sofas. And the dog spirit sat with Qin Hao. Okay. Ning Chaofan also sat down. Actually, with his status as the young city lord, even if he could not enter the pavilion, he should sit in the front row of the purple area, right next to the stage. Since Grandmaster had given orders, this disciple could not disobey. There was still some time before the auction officially began. Qin Hao and Duanmu Qingwei chatted freely. The two of them talked about alchemy. Qin had been reborn as Dendi, and Duanmu Qingwei was half a step into Dendi. The questions they talked about were more advanced, showing that the two of them were not ordinary. This made Ning Chao Fan even more curious. Not only did teacher know how to forge tools and array formations, but he was also an experienced alchemist. He could not understand Qin Hao at all. 23. Education 123 Literature Network. Chapter 1250. Gradually, more and more forces entered the venue, and the empty seats near Qin Hao became fewer and fewer. As time went by, the main character finally arrived. Greetings, City Lord. The disciples of the Rune Origin Pavilion stood up and saluted. City Lord Ning, how have you been? Your demeanor is still the same as before. The hall master of the herb hall, Tang Du, smiled and cupped his fists. Not only is your demeanor still the same, I'm afraid that City Lord Ning's cultivation has improved again. An old man with a sword-like figure said. He was the core elder of Wux's sword sect. Hello, everyone. My old friend Tang Du, you are here too. The Ning family has not received you well. Please forgive us. Yo, Elder Meng of Wux's sword sect. Elder Meng's aura has returned to its original state. This is the sign of breaking through to the Emperor realm. Congratulations. City Lord Ning returned the greetings one by one with a smile on his face. Qin Hao looked over. This was an 8-foot-tall middle-aged man in a battle robe. He walked with a majestic gait. He seemed to be in harmony with heaven and earth and could control everything. That pair of cold and handsome eyes had the aura of swallowing thousands of troops and horses. Just a glance at him was enough to make one's mind tremble and revere him. He was the lord of Golden Light City, Ning Chaofan's father. He was an Emperor Yuan powerhouse, an extremely powerful general under Emperor Ningwu's command. However, when City Lord Ning entered the venue, he did not walk at the front of the team. Instead, he was like a foil walking beside someone. The temperament of the person leading the team was even higher than City Lord Ning. He wore a crown on his head and a golden robe on his body. 9 dragons danced on his robe, and the Emperor's aura turned into raging waves. Wherever he passed, everyone could not raise their heads. He was the son of Emperor Ningwu, the eldest prince of the Ning family, Ning Hongxian, who ascended to the throne. At this moment, Ning Chaofan looked at Ning Hongxian as if he was looking at a god in his heart. After all, this was the next Emperor Ningwu who was about to lead the Ning family. Eldest brother, father, Ning Chaofan hurriedly got up and trotted all the way to greet them. From the way he shouted, it could be seen that Ning Hongshuan's position in his heart had surpassed his father's. Chaofan, I've heard from the servants that you've safely returned to your clan. I was worried. Now that I've seen you in person, I'm relieved. Ning Hongshuan's footsteps paused. A rare smile appeared on his dignified face. He raised his hand and patted Ning Chaofan's shoulder like an elder brother. This action was extremely intimate. What? You only saw your first imperial brother, but not your third imperial brother? On the other side of Ning Hongxian, a young man stood out and pretended to be angry. His bearing was also outstanding. It was only because of Ning Hongshuan's presence that he appeared to be inferior. Ning Feong, the third son of great Emperor Ningwu, was the prince who had the best relationship with Ning Hongxian. It was rumored that if Ning Hongxian ascended the throne one day, Ning Feong would be the king of political advisors. It was obvious that his status was not ordinary. Greetings, third imperial brother. Ning Chaofan hurriedly saluted. You brat, you've been causing trouble all day long, and you actually hid it from me when you came back. If it weren't for your third grandpa, I would still be in the dark. City Lord Ning scolded. However, everyone could see that this was a father's concern for his son. It was very warm. I'm sorry, father. I made you worry. Ning Chaofan's eyes suddenly turned red. No matter when, his father was always the one who cared about him the most. He heard from his clansmen that after he disappeared, his father sent all the experts of the Golden Light City to excavate the coiling dragon wonder without rest or sleep. City Lord Ning personally supervised them, and a lot of his hair had turned white. If it weren't for the auction, he would still be excavating at the source of the South River. Now that he looked at it, his father's hair had indeed turned white. It's good that you're back. City Lord Ning stroked Ning Chaofan's head. His eyes immediately fell on Qin Hao. Is that Mr. the one who protected you? Yes, if it weren't for teacher's protection, I would have been killed by the old man with the broken sword. Ning Chaofan clenched his fists. Thinking back to the scene when he was forced, he was still very angry. Of course, Qin Hao didn't really help him, but one thing was undeniable. If it weren't for Qin Hao's presence, Ning Chaofan would have died. Ning family will not treat him unfairly. City Lord Ning nodded at Qin Hao. Qin Hao got up and nodded as well. The current situation was too big. City Lord Ning couldn't abandon his prince to greet Qin Hao. This point, Qin Hao could naturally understand. Chaofan, come with me. At this time, Ning Hongxian muttered and took the lead to enter a pavilion. He naturally heard about Xiaohan's matter. In fact, Ning Chaofan's return couldn't be hidden from their eyes. Only Ning Chaofan was immersed in it and thought that he had deceived them, so he was happy like a fool. However, Xiaohan's matter wasn't easy to deal with. Ning Hongxian couldn't immediately give Qin Hao an answer. He needed to discuss it with Ning Chaofan first. There are no eternal friends, only eternal benefits. Between the pros and cons, friendship can be abandoned. Qin Hao was slightly disappointed. He watched the Ning family enter the pavilion. During this time, no one came up to talk to him. Ning Hongxian didn't even send a servant to remind him. As the emperor, Qin Hao naturally knew the emperor's methods. This Ning family was unreliable. Between the pros and cons, friendship can be abandoned? My young friend, why do you sigh like that? Did you encounter some problems? Qin Lao thought about Qin Hao's words and asked with deep concern. It's nothing. Qin Hao smiled unnaturally. Even the Ning family couldn't do anything about it. Did he want to implicate Qin Lao? Qin Lao's strength was decent, but he was only a half-step dandy. Compared to the top 3 royal families of the southern region, he was like the mud on the clouds. To put it bluntly, a casual slap from any of the 3 royal families was not something that Qin Lao could withstand. If you have any problems, don't hesitate to speak. Although the old man's strength is limited, he is not an ungrateful person. Qin Lao said seriously. Gu Huangshou also nodded. Ha ha, I don't have any problems. Qin Lao, don't worry. The auction is about to begin. Qin Hao suddenly laughed heartily. It turned out that there were differences between people. At least Qin Lao wasn't a heartless person. 23. Education 123 Literature Network. Chapter 12, 51. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation meeting the Imperial Censor again after Ning Wu royal family. The higher-ups of Scorching Sun Temple and Wuk Sword Sect entered. With Emperor Yuan and Yu Qianyang as the core, Scorching Sun Temple's team walked into the pavilion. Yu Qianyang's fiery red hair stood on end. His eyes were arrogant, and his body was like a bunch of divine fire. Even in the face of such a grand scene, he was still calm. The geniuses of the major sect were nothing in his eyes. In Wuk Sword Sect's team, there was one person whose temperament was more outstanding than Yu Qianyang's. It was a young man in white. He was very handsome and extraordinary. Although he didn't give people the feeling of arrogance like Yu Qianyang, his calm eyes hid an extremely sharp sword intent. He was like the incarnation of a sword. This person's ability is not below Yu Qianyang's. Qin Hao looked at the young man in white and faintly felt a sense of threat. Even in his previous life, he had never seen someone with such pure sword intent. Qin Hao thought of the old man with a broken sword. The old man with a broken sword was the purest sword cultivator, and his sword strength was very strong. However, the old man with a broken sword who had been cultivating for his whole life seemed like an unorthodox disciple in front of the young man in white. He was like a monk who became a swordsman halfway. He couldn't be compared with this young man. What's more, this young man was obviously less than 30 years old. His future was limitless. His name is Shou Wuk. He is the #1 person in the Wuk Sword Sect, the nephew of the sect master, and has long been selected as a core disciple. Shou Wuk's talent in swordsmanship is unparalleled in the southern region. If there are no accidents, he will be the successor of Wuk Sword Sect. In the future, he will be a top figure in the southern region. The old man can only look up to him. Qing Lao explained. He didn't put on the airs of an elder and had a very high evaluation of him. Yes, Qin Hao nodded and admitted this point. At this time, he thought of Lin Feng. Senior brother Lin Feng was a seed genius of Qiyang University. At that time, he was the #1 person in the sect and was known as a legendary figure. He was also a pure sword cultivator. If the accident in the Medicine Valley had not happened, he would have been very interested in this showwalk. In order to protect everyone, Lin Feng used his soul as the price to activate the ultimate blade storm. He died, leaving behind only a wisp of his soul. If I can get Xin Yuan Wutian's universal earth and combine it with the power of the nether purifying water, I can revive senior brother Lin Feng. Qin Hao secretly clenched his fists. The upper echelons of the Blazing Sun Temple and the Flawless Sword Sect each entered a pavilion. After them, another group of people arrived. This was a very strange group of people. Their clothes were especially rough. The group of people only had a pair of leather boots and very short shorts to cover their private parts. Every one of them had bulging muscles and were tall and mighty. Moreover, Qin Hao saw an acquaintance in this force. Luo Yuliang, the one who had become sworn brothers with the old demon, drank wine with prostitutes, slept with women, and had a wild nature. He's from the Arhut Palace. Qin Hao frowned as he remembered. Luo Yuliang, the youngest son of the Arhut Emperor, the young master of the Arhut Palace, one of the top forces. Although the people of this sect dress very differently and affect the appearance of the city, no one in the southern region dares to challenge them. After all, they're the only martial artists in the entire southern region, and even the entire continent, who only focus on cultivating their physical bodies and become emperors through body refinement. Qing Lao said with a smile. The people of the Arhut Palace were very straightforward people, whether it was their style of doing things or speaking. Perhaps they were a little rough, but they were not hypocritical like other sects. I see. This old demon really doesn't know how to do things, sigh. Qin Hao slapped his thigh and sighed helplessly. At that time in Upper Lin City, he felt that Luo Yuliang was extraordinary and wanted to build a good relationship with him. However, the old demon became ruthless and cut off all ties with Luo Yuliang, saying that they were no longer brothers and didn't want to see each other again, which broke Luo Yuliang's heart. If that didn't happen, the Arhut Palace would definitely be a powerful helper today. They were one of the top sect, a giant that was on par with the Scorching Sun Temple. What a pity. The Arhut Palace took their seats. Immediately, a thick black smoke swept over. The black smoke was mixed with a majestic aura and emitted a faint smell of blood. It flew over the auction house and entered one of the pavilions. The process was so fast that no one could react. Unknowingly, everyone's head was covered in cold sweat. The moment the black smoke swept over, everyone felt a sense of death, as if their souls were shattered. We've arrived at the Night Net Palace, Qing Lao said faintly. Beads of sweat rolled down his face, and his gaze was solemn. The 9 Stars Emperor's aura swept over their heads. The palace master of the Night Net Palace had arrived personally. It was rumored that Yin Ning Hong was a top beauty in the southern region, and her cultivation was at the 9 Stars Great Emperor level. Of course, she wouldn't show her face in public. However, the auction house was a mix of good and bad people. If one wasn't an emperor, who was worthy of standing in front of Yin Ning Hong? Qin Hao was stunned. He flew directly into the pavilion. He didn't even have the chance to meet a disciple of the Night Net Palace. How could he tell that the old demon was present? The emperor intent in the black smoke just now was too strong. It affected the telepathy between Qin Hao and the old demon imperceptibly, unless it was like when Qin Hao opened the Hidden Dragon secret realm and unleashed the full power of a 9 Stars Great Emperor. Otherwise, it would be difficult to fight against the other party's emperor intent. Seeing you like this, could it be that you have a grudge against the people of the Night Net Palace? The Night Net Palace has very few disciples, and all of them are female. The upper echelons are very protective of their disciples. In fact, they used to be called the Night Net Demon Palace. The techniques they cultivate are very evil. They don't need to attack in person to kill their opponents from 1,000 miles away. You must be careful, Qing Lao warned. At this moment, he was on his guard, as if he was guarding against the people of the Night Net Palace. However, if the other party really wanted to kill Qin Hao, Qing Lao knew that he wouldn't be able to stop them. That demon Yi Ninghong was here in person. Even an elite like Emperor Ningwu would find it extremely difficult to protect the person she wanted to kill. Qing Lao, don't worry. Between me and the Night Net Palace, Qin Hao was about to explain. Suddenly, a sacred team entered, causing everyone to stand up and watch. Qin Hao and Qing Lao also stood up and looked back. Everyone in this team was wearing white robes and was made up of a group of elderly alchemists. The average age of these elderly alchemists was around 60 years old. The team entered solemnly like a group of devout believers. Their auras were very weak, much weaker than the first-rate forces in the southern region. More than 90% of them were Yuan kings. However, their attire was too obvious, and they were all made up of alchemists. It was inevitable that they would stand out. The two people in front of the team were the two fools, Nibbling Tube and Ironbite. At this moment, Nibbling Tube and Ironbite's faces were also tense and solemn. Seeing this, Qin Hao smiled. His chaotic heart seemed to have found a place to belong when Dan Ji's team entered. Suddenly, he calmed down. Even the way he looked at Nibbling Tube and Ironbite was so amiable and pleasing to the eye. This was his force, his most reliable force, the foundation of Western Liang. Other than Nibbling Tube and Ironbite, Tsaogu was also there. He was the youngest person in the team. It was hard for him not to stand out when he was traveling with a group of old men. However, the real leader was far beyond Qin Hao's expectations. It wasn't Yao Lao, Xian Qiue, or even his master, Dan Xian. It was... Qin Hao looked at the figure wearing a purple robe and a Kylin mask. He had only seen this figure once before. It was Dan Ji's Imperial Censor. Why was it him? Qin Hao knew very little about Imperial Censors. This person's status in Dango was obviously not as high as Yao Lao and Dan Xian, not to mention the leader of Dango, Xian. As for the cultivation level of the Imperial Censor, it was probably not as high as the three of them. However, why was he the one leading the team? Were Xian Qiue and Yi Longyuan confused? They had brought the Holy Soul Elixir, but did not send a top fighter to protect them. Wouldn't it be like sending sheep to a tiger's den in the southern region? Chapter 1252. It was impossible for Xian Qiue and Yi Longyuan to make a low-level mistake. They were not foolish people. On the contrary, the two of them were very shrewd. They sent the Imperial Censor to lead the team to affirm this person's ability. Or was there a hidden move behind the scenes? Tsaogu, Nibble Tube, and Ironbite stopped in their tracks and looked at the crowd. Their eyes fell on Qin Hao's position. No matter how many people there were, Qin Hao's aura was too familiar. Tsaogu grew up with him and was his lifelong idol. No matter how deep Qin Hao hid, as long as he appeared nearby, how could he escape from Tsaogu's perception? At this moment, the three of them were happy and wanted to go forward to greet each other. However, Qin Hao shook his head, indicating that there was no hurry to make it public. Tsaogu immediately understood and nodded secretly. The three of them pretended as if nothing had happened and led the team to a pavilion. Duan Zhanfei is here. Don't be rash. Leave everything to us. In the dark, a voice floated into Qin Hao's ears. It was the Imperial Censor who came from Dan Ji's pavilion. This voice was not unusual and had no special characteristics, but it inexplicably made Qin Hao feel close, as if it was an old friend. Duan Zhanfei? Qin Hao was slightly surprised. Warlord Daliao, the #1 general under Shao Yi, and Duan Ziju's father. He actually came too. No wonder Xian Qiue and Yi Longyuan were so assured and allowed the Imperial Censor to lead Dan Ji's team to enter the martial Ning Empire to participate in the auction ceremony. With the warlord at the back, there was nothing to worry about. Although Duan Zhanfei was a low-leveled arch, and the most basic one at that. However, He accompanied Xiao Yi to reclaim the mountains and rivers and was known as the warlord. How could he be measured by ordinary standards? His combat power was definitely very strong, at least not inferior to City Lord Ning. "Okay, our Uncle Duan is here." Qin Hao calmed down and sat back down. The invisible mountain on his shoulders seemed to be kicked away by an external force. "Uncle Duan? Which Uncle Duan?" Ko was puzzled. Suddenly, an idea flashed through her mind. A figure clad in Demon King armor and brimming with murderous intent appeared. That was the only person with the surname Duan in her consciousness, the warlord of Great Liao. "Uncle Duan is here. Sister can be saved." Qin Hao took a grape from the fruit platter on the table and stuffed it into K.'s mouth, smiling without saying a word. "Why is this girl so agitated?" Xiao swallowed it in one gulp and coughed twice. She glared at Qin Hao with hidden bitterness in her eyes, but she understood that she could not say anything. However, his eyes were still filled with excitement. Since the elders were here, they naturally had more confidence. "Little friend, you know that group of people?" Duanmu Qingwei asked. No matter how well he concealed it, he would still be able to see through it. After all, he clearly remembered that Qin Hao had said in the Star Refining Tower that he wasn't from the southern region, but from the western Liang. Shiliang people? Shiliang Danga? With Qin Hao's extraordinariness in alchemy, the two were bound to have a rather deep relationship. It was just that Duanmu Qingwei didn't know. Qing Lao must be joking. This junior's aptitude is mediocre. How could I be related to Danga? Qin Hao said with a smile. His words were for outsiders to hear, but his eyes already told Duanmu Qingwei, and of course we know each other. Our relationship is very good. It seemed that Xinque and Yi Longyuan were still worried about him. They had only left for a few months, but they had immediately sent Danji's troops over, led by the imperial censor and accompanied by Caiogua. It was obvious that they were prepared to open a branch in the southern region. This was indeed the case. As long as Danga had a firm foothold in the southern region, Qin Hao's participation would be more beneficial. Outsiders? Unreliable. The southern region was so vast that finding a person was like finding a needle in a haystack. That was why they had thought of auctioning the Holy Soul Pill to attract the attention of the southern region's martial artists. Qin Hao would definitely take the initiative to come when he heard the news of the Holy Soul Pill. Duan Zhanfei had also been sent by Xiao Yi to Danga to join forces. Since both sides were allies, they should advance and retreat together. Danga was too weak and lacked a martial emperor to oversee it. Xiao Wudi naturally wouldn't be stingy. Furthermore, his daughter was still following Qin Hao, so he had no choice but to send someone over. The imperial censor had heard that Xiao Han had fallen into the hands of the Xinyuan clan, but he wasn't sure. Thus, he secretly told Qin Hao, "Don't be impulsive. Let us handle everything. These people are the alchemists of Western Danga. They are too weak. A bunch of useless Yuan monarchs. The purple-robed fellow looks like a mid-level Yuan venerate. How could such people become a top force in Western Liang? In our southern region, even a second-rate force is enough to crush them, let alone a first-rate force. And to them, our top forces are like mountains that they can only look at, but not reach." However, they were able to stay in a loft and sit on equal footing with the three sovereigns and four sects. I really admire their courage when they held their noses high and put on airs just now. The martialists of the southern region discussed animatedly in the square. Western Liang was indeed a godforsaken place. The martialists it nurtured were all useless. How could it compare to the southern region? The elders of the first-rate sect smiled faintly in agreement. However, I didn't envy Danga for staying in a loft. After all, Danga wasn't qualified to be envious. Even the second-rate sect didn't think highly of Danga. In comparison, they were very jealous of Danga for entering the loft and sitting on equal footing with the three sovereigns and four sects. Such an opportunity was too glorious. "Everyone, you're being too subjective. He is naturally talented to be able to refine a miraculous elixir like the Saint Soul elixir. However, due to environmental factors, Western Liang is poor and lacks resources. Thus, his cultivation is relatively weak. What about you? Who can research an elixir that is comparable to the Saint Soul elixir? A person in front of Qin Hao spoke without hiding from the martialists of the southern region. Instantly, a large number of people looked over. In the end, when they saw the person's attire and the conspicuous pattern of 3 leaves of grass on his collar, they nodded and said, "You are extremely right. If the martialists of Western Liang were born in the southern region, they would naturally be quite strong with our abundant resources for cultivation." "Ha ha! Qin Hao was surprised. "Brother, you are wise." He never imagined that someone from the southern domain, who prided themselves on their status, would actually stand up and speak up for the Pill Pavilion. Moreover, it seemed that his words carried a lot of weight. "Haha, it's just my personal opinion." The person in front returned and stood up voluntarily. He turned around and cupped his fists at Qin Hao. "Herb Hall, Tang Xingqian." Herb Hall, a first-rate force of the southern region, on par with the Spirit Beast sect and the Slayer sect. Moreover, his surname was Tang, and he was a direct descendant of the Herb Hall sect master. No wonder no one refuted what he said. He indeed had the right to speak. Guest of the Golden Light City branch, Qin Hao. Qin Hao stood up and returned the greeting. The reason why he didn't mention Western Liang was because he didn't want to expose his relationship with Dan Ge. "It's an honor to meet you. You must be the person who saved young Master Ning from his crisis. I heard that yesterday, young Master Ning of the Ning family almost got into a fight with the Spirit Beast sect because of you. In the end, the Spirit Beast sect was kicked out of the Wenhua Garden. All the shops and inns in the city were not allowed to accept them. Otherwise, they would be regarded as the enemy of the Ning family. You must be a top genius to make young Master Ning do this for you." Tang Xingqian was full of smiles. "How am I a genius? I don't dare." Qin Hao said. The Spirit Beast sect being kicked out of the Wenhua Garden must have caused a sensation in the city. It wasn't strange that Tang Xingqian knew about it. However, the Spirit Beast sect is really pitiful. It's a first-class force in the southern region after all. After being slapped in the face by the Ning family, they lost all their dignity and ended up sleeping on the streets. They still can't sit in the purple area. Tang Xingqian shook his head and sighed. Thump! Qin Hao was startled. He glanced at the purple area and didn't see Chang Lo and the others from the Spirit Beast sect. He turned around and saw the Spirit Beast sect's team standing in a large open space with the low-level martial artists of the southern region. This was really, perhaps they were afraid of being kicked out by Ning Chao Fan again. After all, the auction house belonged to the Ning family. If they were really kicked out of the purple area, they would lose even more face today than yesterday. A first-class force couldn't even sit in a seat. Well, it was a bit miserable. From Brother Tang's tone, "Do you have any grudges with the Spirit Beast sect?" Qin Hao asked. At this moment, Tang Xingqian's smile was very wide. He was gloating. Tang Xingqian took 2 steps forward towards Qin Hao. He clenched his fists, and his face was tense. The smile on his face was completely gone. "Yes, of course. Chang Lo often comes to the medicinal herb hall to beat me up for more than 10 years. Don't you think it's a big deal? So it's like that." Qin Hao frowned. On second thought, it shouldn't be like that. Tang Xingqian was Master Tang's direct disciple. Chang Lo had beaten him up for more than 10 years. How could the elders in the sect tolerate it? No, there must be a trap at this moment. A smile appeared on Chang Haloa's face. That's my sworn brother. It's normal for him to teach me a lesson for more than 10 years. As for you, you were so impressive yesterday. You made my sworn brother lose face in front of so many people. You even injured 3 elders of the Spirit Beast sect. Brat, from now on, I'll make sure you can't even bid for a single hair." Tang Xingqian clenched his teeth and threatened fiercely. Chapter 1253. Sworn brother? So that's how it is. You better take back that sentence. It's not auspicious. Qin Hao said calmly with a smile. Not even a single hair could be bought. Someone had once told him, was it an exploding flame city or the Yihong auction house in the wasteland? He could not remember clearly. Anyway, that person was dead. Roar. The dog spirit stood tall and stared at Tang Xingqian with its burning eyes. At the same time, Qing Lao emitted a faint pressure. Qing Lao was not angry. Haha, let's wait and see. Tang Xingqian looked at Qing Lao indifferently and returned to his seat. He did not know this old man, but he could feel that he was very powerful. Trouble was not allowed in the auction house, so he would not attack Qin Hao. However, as he said, it was completely possible to make Qin Hao unable to buy a single treasure. The Herbal Medicine Hall was the largest alchemist force in the southern region and was extremely wealthy. No one doubted his words. The nearby martial artist could only sigh. Qin Hao was unlucky. The Ning family did not dare to compete with the Herbal Medicine Hall in terms of wealth. If anyone was to blame, they could only blame Qin Hao for provoking Chang Halo. Qin Hao did not think much of it. Competing with money? Bring it on. Qin Hao felt a little guilty about competing in terms of power and cultivation. However, if you were to compete with me in terms of wealth, Dan Ji's set of Holy Soul pills was enough to bankrupt the Herbal Medicine Hall. Western Liang was not as poor as the outside world thought. In fact, there were countless minerals. In particular, the wasteland contained a celestial crystal dragon Oregon Qin Hao did not even need to use the gnawing tube and iron bite. The crystals he brought were enough to kill Tang Xingqian. The fundamental reason why Western Liang was weak was not because of a lack of cultivation resources, but because of the low grade of cultivation techniques. They could not keep up with the pace of the three regions. The most serious problem was that the environment was harsh. Experts also liked comfort and yearned for beauty. Those who were capable would not return to Western Liang. Experts from the other regions would not run to Western Liang either. As time passed, Western Liang had no emperor. However, it was the cleanest and most primitive place on the continent. The matter between Xiao Han and Ahe Huang had not been resolved yet, but there were people who wanted to join forces to deal with him during the auction. Spiritual Beast Sect? Herb Hall? Very well, I'll play with you guys then. Let's see who won't be able to buy a single hair. Next, two exceptionally tyrannical forces entered the arena. The two teams were neck to neck, and the leaders did not give way to each other. Just like the giant Kuan Peng beast and the 8-winged black dragon seen in the sky above the Fourth Sea City, the competition was very intense. Qin Hao looked over, and his heart skipped a beat. The three sovereigns and four sects were the last two peak powers of the Southern Territory. They were the Li clan of the north and the Xianyuan clan of the south. At the front of the Li family's team, a middle-aged man had a faint smile on his face. His aura was restrained and not arrogant. He was the second prince, Li Yaxu. He was the next Emperor Bao and the current crown prince. His status was similar to Ning Hongshuan's. There were two people following behind him. One of them was clad in battle armor, while the other was clad in green robes. The one clad in battle armor was the fourth prince, Li Yajin. As for the one clad in green robes, Qin Hao frowned slightly when he saw him. He looked a little familiar. Suddenly, he remembered that young Master Yaki whom he met in the Zhang family when he first arrived in the Southern Territory. He was actually in the Bao royal family's team, accompanying the crown prince. Then, what was his identity? At this moment, Qin Hao understood a little. No wonder this person was so arrogant back then. The aura of the Xianyuan clan's team was not weaker than that of the Li family. The leader was a middle-aged man clad in an ordinary martial artist's outfit. The black armor on his body outlined the beauty of strength. His steps were steady, and his aura was like a rainbow. The way he walked was not like he was attending an auction, but like he was on a crusade. Wherever he stepped, everything would submit to him. He was the eldest son of Emperor Bao, Xianyuan Wuba, a powerhouse who had broken through to the fourth stage of the sovereign realm. If Ning Hongshuan's aura was steady and Li Yaxu's temperament was restrained, Xianyuan Wuba was arrogant and overbearing. Moreover, he did not hide his arrogance and overbearingness at all, exuding great ambition. The heirs of the three sovereigns had different temperaments, but each of them was very outstanding and outstanding. Behind Xianyuan Wuba, there were three people: the second prince, Xianyuan Wuying, and the third prince, Xianyuan Wuyao. Qin Hao had heard from Ning Chao Fan that Xianyuan Wuying was 67 years old and had reached the peak of the Emperor realm. He had already glimpsed the Emperor realm and would soon break through to the Emperor realm. The third prince, Xianyuan Wuyao, was 40 years old and had reached the peak of the Emperor realm. At this moment, there were no traces of age on their bodies. Xianyuan Wuba was middle-aged, Xianyuan Wuying seemed to be a young man in his 30s, and Xianyuan Wuyao looked even younger, not much older than Qin Hao. When a cultivator stepped into the venerable realm, they would be free from the shackles of age. The Emperor realm had a lifespan of 600 years. The Emperor realm had a lifespan of 1,000 years, and the 9-star Great Emperor was around 1,500 years old. This was the limit of the limit. Unless they were like the old man with a broken sword, whose body was damaged when he was young and could not change his appearance when he was old. However, what surprised Qin Hao was that the third person behind Xianyuan Wuba was a man with a broken arm. It was Xianyuan Wuji, who had been kneeled down by Zhou Wudao, and his empty right arm had been chopped off by Xiao Han. At this moment, Xianyuan Wuji was no longer the cold, arrogant, and confident young man. His eyes were lifeless, and his face seemed to have experienced many vicissitudes of life. Even though he was in the team of the Xianyuan royal family and was influenced by Xianyuan Wuba's aura, he could not get rid of his dispirited mood. The emperor martial competition had been a great blow to him. Obviously, he was doubting his life. This time, he accompanied Xianyuan Wuba to the auction because his elders had begged him to get the opportunity. Their goal was to let Xianyuan Wuji experience the big scene again and regain his sense of superiority and confidence as a descendant of the Xianyuan royal family in front of the crowd. However, how could it be so easy? Wuji, have you seen it? No matter where we go, no matter who we face, no matter how noble they are, when they see the Xianyuan royal family, they can't help but admire, envy, and revere you. Even the sect heads of these first-rate forces and their geniuses cultivated by their sects wish they could be born in our Xianyuan royal family. At this moment, as long as you casually shout, all the sect heads would be willing to offer their most beloved daughters to you. All the geniuses would be willing to help you. While walking, Xianyuan Wuba talked to Xianyuan Wuji through voice transmission. He continued, "You were born to be the strongest warrior. You were born with the mission of conquering the world for the family. What's the big deal about a mere defeat? Not to mention losing an arm. Even if all four of your limbs are crippled, so what? When we go back, I will beg my father to use the universal sacred land to build an arm for you. A real man should not be afraid of the world." Xianyuan Wuji's body suddenly trembled. His cold heart seemed to be watered by hot blood. However, the light in his eyes dimmed down immediately. The universal sacred land was the ultimate treasure of the Xianyuan royal family. As long as one's divine soul was not destroyed, one could rebuild one's physical body. However, even if he had a new arm, so what? Zhou Wudao was too strong. His Taotai's soul origin could devour everything. Xiao Han was too strong. Facing her was like facing a goddess from the 9 heavens. Especially that Qin Hao. His scarlet arrow shocked the world and shook the universe. It was unstoppable and invincible. Even Zhou Wudao was scared and fled. What could he, Xianyuan Wuji, count for? Chapter 1254. Trash. Xianyuan Wuyao shouted. His first imperial brother's words made his blood boil, but Xianyuan Wuji had no fighting spirit at all. Wuji is depressed. I can't pull him out of his depression with just a few words. He needs time to recover. Xianyuan Wuying said. His physical injuries could be treated. He could only rely on himself to heal his heart. Father is right. However, Princess Daliao is in your hands. I don't think Xiao is powerful. Qin Hao even lost a woman. How powerful can he be? I really hope he can come out and teach him how to protect a woman. An arrogant young man beside Xianyuan Wuji spoke. His tone was frivolous. He did not take the emperor martial competition seriously at all. Champion? What was a champion? In his eyes, Xianyuan Wuji was the same. If Xianyuan Wuji was not related to him by blood, how could he be qualified to stand in the Xianyuan clan's team? This person was Xianyuan Wuying's son, Xianyuan Feng. When Xianyuan Wuji heard the words Princess Daliao, his body trembled and he looked back. there was a woman in the middle of the team. She was accompanied by 4 extremely beautiful maidservants. The 4 maids had been carefully selected from the imperial palace, and they were all top-notch beauties. They were extremely beautiful. Beside the woman, they looked like weeds on the roadside, unsightly. That woman was sacred and could not be profaned. She was like a pure goddess. It was as if she had gathered all the beauty in the world. Ordinary people could not match her. Xinyuan Wuji looked at her and felt a faint pain in his missing right arm. In the past, she had sat beside Martial Emperor Daliao, overlooking the battle arena where thousands of geniuses fought. Those geniuses were all her admirers. She had been very beautiful back then. Of course, she was still very beautiful now. However, she had lost her spiritual qi. Her bright eyes had become empty as if they had lost their soul. Xinyuan Wuji did not know what method Xinyuan Wuying used to turn Xiao Han into a walking corpse. However, he knew that when Xinyuan Wuying met Xiao Han that day, a battle broke out. Xinyuan Wuying did not fare well either. He was heavily injured by an arrow. Later, the arrow merged with the flute. This chapter is not finished. Please turn the page. Inside Xiao Han's body, he turned into an arrow spirit to protect her, preventing Xinyuan Wuying from attacking Xiao Han. Xinyuan Wuying was afraid and did not dare to get close to her. Also, what did Xinyuan Feng just say? Do you want to meet Qin Hao? And he wanted to teach Qin Hao a lesson? Yes, there's a chance. Xinyuan Wuji felt that Qin Hao might be on the way here. As for who taught who, Xinyuan Feng would never forget it. I'm ashamed to be associated with you. Xinyuan Feng found that Xinyuan Wuji didn't respond at all. Even the woman who had chopped off one of his arms didn't dare utter a word in front of Xinyuan Wuji. He was a coward, a piece of trash. Eldest uncle, second uncle, third uncle. I'm ashamed of the cultivation of the clan. I'll let you down. Xinyuan Wuji said calmly as he looked away. After returning from the northern border, he felt that nothing was important anymore. Ambition and power were just floating clouds. He would not participate in the future of a Xinyuan clan. What did Xinyuan Feng want to do have anything to do with him? There was also Qin Hao, Xiao Han, and Zhou Wudao. They were all figures of the past. He didn't want to compete with them. He knew that he couldn't compare to them. In addition to resources, talent was also important in martial arts. Xinyuan Wuji's talent had been completely crushed on the day of the Emperor Martial Competition. As time passed, the gap between his realm and that of Qin Hao and Zhou Wudao would only increase. There was no way for him to make a comeback. Now, he just wanted to find a quiet place and not get involved in disputes. It's my sister. She was really... Kay. Saw Xiao Han in the Xinyuan clan's team. Looking at her empty eyes, Kara felt like her heart was being pierced by needles. She didn't know what kind of disaster her sister had suffered. Qin Hao held Kay's shoulder tightly, not allowing her to act rashly. Even though his fingernails dug deep into his palms and blood flowed out. But now was not the time to act. He had to let the Ning family confirm and see if they would help. If they didn't, then with Duan Zhanfei around, it was possible for him to snatch Xiao Han away, although it would be very dangerous. Dong, perhaps sensing something, Xiao Han, who was following the team aimlessly, suddenly stopped. This chapter is not finished. Please turn the page. She suddenly stopped. Her empty eyes gradually regained a weak luster. Her delicate face stiffly swept across the vast crowd, as if she was looking for something. In front of her, Xinyuan Wuying sensed something strange. That woman's memory had been forcibly suppressed and sealed by him. She was actually able to slowly penetrate the seal and recover a wisp of consciousness. What a tenacious woman. Suddenly, a huge spiritual force turned into a powerful force that swept into Xiao Han's mind. The weak luster that had just risen in Xiao Han's eyes was extinguished. Her eyes turned empty as she caught up with the team again. Xinyuan Wuying. Creak. Qin Hao clenched his fists. He saw that the person who controlled Xiao Han was the young man behind Xinyuan Wuba. He was 67 years old, and his cultivation was at the peak of the Emperor realm. He was the second prince who had just touched the Emperor realm. This person should be killed. Is she beautiful? In front of him, Tang Xingqian turned his head and stared at Qin Hao with a sneer. I really don't know what kind of great luck Xian Yuan Wuying has to meet such a beautiful woman. She is as noble as a goddess. I can understand your feelings. In fact, I feel the same way. Xian Yuan Wuying looks young, but he's actually a 67-year-old old man. He wants to control such a fairy and make her his imperial concubine. How shameless. Tang Xingqian also looked angry and hateful. He really hoped that the person standing next to Xiao Han was himself. Who wouldn't admire such a fairy? However, the people of the Xinyuan family were too strong. No matter how much Tang Xingqian disliked them, he didn't dare to be enemies with them. After the auction, she will stand next to me, Qin Hao said coldly. Thump! Tang Xingqian's heart skipped a beat. Xian Yuan Wuying's imperial concubine was going to stand next to Qin Hao. Tang Xingqian wanted to hold his belly and laugh wildly. Was he dreaming? Shameless boasting. Why don't you take a piss and look at your own face? You don't deserve her. Tang Xingqian turned around. Although Xian Yuan Wuying was old, his cultivation was at the peak of the emperor realm. He was a half-step away from the Yuan emperor. Would Qin Hao dare to compete with him? He was courting death. At this moment, the 3 sovereigns and 4 sects had all entered the pavilion. The 3 major areas were full. First-rate forces, second-rate forces, and all kinds of people were all present. This indicated that the martial Ning Empire's once every 5 years auction had officially begun. End of chapter. Chapter 1255. Qian Qian. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. A strange appraiser, it was said that the Ning family had invited an old eccentric to attend the auction. His name was Mr. Fenghua, and his name was Li Beitong. His cultivation was unknown, but Li Beitong's name was comparable to Mount Tai and Big Dipper in the southern region's auction world 200 years ago. He was the highest standard of appraisers. No matter what treasure it was, he could distinguish its authenticity at a glance. His status was comparable to the 3 sovereigns and 4 sects of the cultivation world. The Ning family had even invited him. It could be seen that the number of treasures in this auction was astonishing. When the Li family and Xian Yuan clan entered the pavilion, a rumbling sound spread and the ground shook. 7 huge stone pillars broke out of the ground on the left and right of the auction stage, standing tall and upright. The stone pillars emitted a dazzling white light, and a figure stood on top of each pillar. Their clothes fluttered in the wind, and their auras were powerful. Among them, there were 6 men and 1 woman, a total of 7 people. These 7 people represented the 3 sovereigns and 4 sects. The 7 powerhouses shouted at the same time and raised their palms to the top of their heads. Vitality surged under their palms, turning into a raging river that shook the void above, and muffled thunder rumbled above. 7 different types of vitality gathered together, forming a terrifying vortex. The vortex spread and turned into a bright starry sky. It was as if a large cloth had spread out above the square, blocking the sun and enveloping the auction house, completely isolating it from the outside world. At this moment, the interior of the auction house dimmed. However, starlight shone above everyone's heads. It was spectacular and gorgeous. The millions of people felt as if they were in a galaxy, and they felt endless wonder. What a strong 7 people. Qin Hao was slightly surprised. Every person on the stone pillars had a half-step Yuan the Arch cultivation. They had just glimpsed the Arch Dao and comprehended their own the Arch intent. Although they were not as strong as Qin Lao, they were not too far off, as expected of the experts of the 3 sovereigns and 4 sects. Qin Hao knew that with this starry sky, no one could force their way out. Even a mid-level Yuan the Arch would have to pay an extremely heavy price to break in, unless it was a 9-star Great Emperor. Of course, this move was to protect the treasures in the auction house. Of course, even without this starry sky, no one dared to stir up trouble in front of the 3 emperors and 4 sections. When one of them took action, it could be considered a type of auction ceremony. In addition, it served as a form of deterrence, and its purpose was to tell the first and second-rate sect of the Southern Territory that the three sovereigns and four sects were the strongest in the Southern Territory. The ceremony was not over yet. When the seven forces gathered and turned into a starry sky, a dazzling light suddenly shot down from the starry sky and shone on the auction stage. This white light was incomparably vast, as if it could pierce through heaven and earth, reaching up to the firmament and down to the 9 underworlds. Soon after, an old man slowly descended from the top of the starry sky. Beneath his feet was a ball of auspicious clouds. He had a goatee and wore an earth-colored gown and a pair of flowery pants. With one hand behind his back and the other stroking his beard, his eyes were kind and amiable. At first glance, he gave off a strong sense of intimacy and holiness. However, his pants and jacket were too eye-catching. After a glance, no one felt that he had the aura of an immortal. Instead, he looked more like an old hooligan. "Ladies and gentlemen, do you know of this old man?" The old man smiled. His voice wasn't loud, but it was like a clear spring that spread throughout the entire auction house, flowing through the hearts of everyone present. "Mr. Feng Hua, Mr. Feng Hua, Mr. Feng Hua." The entire square was boiling with excitement. The three major areas, including the civilian area and the low-level martial artist area, had people shouting madly in every direction. Everyone seemed to have gone crazy, shouting obsessively. Many people were so excited that they were crying, and some people even fainted on the ground. Of course, the people who fainted were immediately carried out by the Ning family. As soon as they were carried out, those people immediately sobered up. They smiled as they received the money from the Ning family and disappeared from the auction house. All of this was to create momentum for Li Beitong. This old fellow had lived in seclusion for over 200 years. He was afraid of being forgotten by others, and he was also a person who cared a lot about face. Thus, the Ning family satisfied his request and secretly brought in some people. However, there were nearly 1 million people in the auction house. Who would know who? As soon as they heard everyone shouting for Mr. Feng Hua, especially the commoners who hadn't seen the world, they also shouted together. The shouting spread like a plague. The momentum was great, and it greatly satisfied Li Beitong's vanity. Quiet. Li Beitong stepped on a magic cloud, his hands moving in the air. He was slightly moved. Old man hasn't appeared for over 200 years. I thought he had been forgotten by the world. I didn't expect that the old man's charm would still be praised in the southern region. I am very happy. Mr. Feng Hua, I love you. An extremely excited voice broke the atmosphere, spreading sharply. Then a young woman in the audience fainted on the ground. Li Beitong couldn't bear to see her like this. He waved his hand and said, "Come, take that crazy female fan of mine away, and take good care of her." Without further ado, the Martial Ning Empire's once every 5 years auction ceremony will begin. First, we will show the first treasure of this year's ceremony. Li Beitong paused and pointed to the auction stage. Whoosh! Suddenly, a sharp sword fell from the sky like a bolt of lightning. At this moment, a figure flew over from the top of the 7 stone pillars. With a flash of his body, he grabbed his sword and stepped onto the auction stage. The first treasure is a sword. The sword holder is an expert from the Wuxword clan. What is he going to do? People in the audience were discussing. Li Beitong smiled faintly at the expert from the Wuxword clan and said, "Cloud Rock Sword, a middle-grade emperor weapon. The main material is jade soul iron. The blade is forged from star steel, smelted in a furnace for 49 days, and watered with the blood of the emperor-level demon beast, silver-winged rock. It is used by fast sword users." As he spoke, the expert from the Wuxword clan suddenly stepped on the auction stage and danced with the sword. His movements were very slow. When he waved the sword, he didn't activate a trace of Yuan Qi, nor did he use his own strength. However, the way he danced gave people the illusion that he was extremely fast. Everyone could clearly hear the sound of the sword tearing through the air. It was like the blade of a sword tearing through space. Every move was very sharp. Although he was attacking later, he first pierced through space. At this moment, many venerable and emperor-level warriors in the audience were shocked. It was only the power of the sword, and he didn't use any strength or yuan qi. Cloud rock sword, with a kind of inscription, cloud burial technique. It also seals the soul of the emperor-level demon beast, silver winged rock. It is light, swift, and tough. It cannot be destroyed. Li Bai continued. At this moment, the expert from the Wuk Sword clan shouted and poured yuan qi into the sword. He slashed the void, and the void was suddenly filled with clouds. The clouds seemed to bury the void. At the same time, a row of dense sword qi slashed into the clouds. In an instant, the clouds were pierced by the sword qi. If a person was trapped in the clouds at this time, the warriors thought for a moment and broke out in cold sweat. Roar! The expert from the Wuk Sword clan changed his move again. At this moment, his body shone with intense golden flames, and his cultivation skyrocketed. The sword in his hand turned golden, and he slashed the void again. Everyone saw the sword qi spurt out and turn into a huge silver-winged rock. The rock carried a ferocious aura and blasted into the clouds. The clouds completely collapsed, and the entire starry sky shook. It was as if the sword qi could destroy the starry sky if it was a little stronger. What a terrifying emperor weapon. Although it's a weapon for a fast swordsman, its attack strength is also terrifying. An emperor-level warrior will either die or be crippled after being hit by this sword. Everyone was shocked. A middle-grade emperor weapon, engraved with inscriptions, sealed with beast spirits, and mixed with star steel. It could be said to be a rare treasure. Of course, it was the contribution of the expert from the Wuk Sword clan that displayed such terrifying power. This person's sword Dao was extremely strong. If it was someone else, they might not be able to create such an effect. But no matter what, this cloud rock sword was worthy of the emperor-level warriors present. This sword is extraordinary. Other disciples of the Sword clan can also participate in the auction. After the demonstration, the expert from the Wuk Sword clan flew back to the stone pillar, and the cloud rock sword floated on the auction stage. His words undoubtedly increased the confidence of the warriors present. Even the expert from the Sword clan took the initiative to let his disciples participate in the auction, which meant that he was absolutely sure of the sword's value. Of course, he was referring to other disciples just now. This naturally excluded the number 1 inner court disciple, Showuk. The cloud rock sword was indeed extraordinary. Unfortunately, a middle-grade emperor weapon was still not worthy of Showuk's talent. In the expert's opinion, at least a high-grade or even a supreme-grade emperor weapon was worthy of Showuk. Chapter 12:56. The starting price is 200,000 earth crystals. Each bid must not be lower than 20,000. The highest bidder wins. Li Beitong said, 200,000. This sword is for the old man. In the green area, an old martial artist said, emitting an emperor-level aura. The green area was filled with powerful rogue cultivators, wealthy merchants, and small groups. 250,000. This cloud rock sword, this marquis wants it. In the blue area, a marquis laughed and patted the shoulder of a young man beside him. It was obvious that he was bidding for the younger generation. 300,000, 320,000, 350,000. The competition in the 3 areas continued, and the price rose again and again. All of them were sword cultivators. The cloud rock sword's power was extraordinary. Everyone present had seen it, and none of the sword cultivators wanted to miss it. With the materials, inscription technique level, and sealed beast spirit, the cost should be at most 200,000 earth crystals. This has already exceeded 150,000. A refiner is truly a profession comparable to an alchemist. Qin Hao shook his head and smiled. Both of them were cunning old foxes. This cloud rock sword seemed extraordinary, but the truth was that the materials were mediocre. At most, only the star steel on the blade was valuable. As for the cloud burial technique, a low-level inscription technique, a powerhouse could scatter it with a single breath. There was also the Cloud Rock, which was known as an Emperor-level demon beast. In reality, it was a low-level Emperor-level demon beast with a hybrid bloodline. After being sealed, the beast spirit would dissipate. Every time it was released, the beast spirit would weaken a little. After 10 releases, the beast spirit would completely turn into nothingness. It was unknown which refiner had taken it out to cheat others. After Li Beitong's flattery and a half-step Sword Emperor's demonstration, the level of the sword instantly rose. The Ning family, as the controller of the auction house, also made a great profit. How about it, kid? Are you interested in participating in the auction? This sword is very good. It's only 350,000. Aren't you tempted? At this time, Gu Huangshou looked at Qin Hao with a smile. Not interested. After all, the Emperor-level battle sword that you refined is with me. It's a top-grade Emperor-level weapon, much stronger than the Cloud Rock sword. Qin Hao replied. Seeing Gu Huangshou's bewitching smile, he guessed that the Cloud Rock sword was this old man's work. You want to trick me? Impossible. Sure enough, when he heard Qin Hao mention the Emperor-grade battle sword, Gu Huangshou's face sank. He blew his beard and glared at Qin Hao as he angrily snorted. 450,000 earth crystals. This sword belongs to me. Does anyone have any objections? Just as the competition was getting more and more intense, and a few sword cultivators were about to kill, a voice rang out from the purple region. A Wuk sword sect disciple stood up and swept his gaze over every single competitor. Beside this disciple sat a powerful elder-level figure from the Wuk sword sect. His gaze was as sharp as a sword, and he exuded a dignified sword intent. Involuntarily, the red-eyed and thick-necked crowd lost their temper. One after another, they sighed and no longer said anything. Fight with Wuk sword school? He was afraid that he would die the moment he stepped out of the auction house. Congratulations to the Wuk sword sect for obtaining the Cloud Rock sword. Li Beitong shouted at the right time. Thank you, master. The Wuk sword sect disciple was overjoyed. He knelt down and saluted the old man beside him. He knew very well that the person who truly suppressed the competitors was his master. Although you are not as talented as your eldest senior brother Wuk, with this sword in hand, you will have a higher chance of participating. The old man transmitted his voice. It turned out that he was preparing for the South Pole Divine Palace. The next item to be auctioned was a pill. It was a high-grade Emperor-grade pill, a healing-type pill. Its healing effect was extremely strong, and it could slightly restore vitality. The starting price was 100,000 earth crystals. The price soared all the way to 300,000, catching up to the Cloud Rock sword. For items of the same level, a pill was a one-time consumable. It was not as precious as a Dharma artifact. After all, it could only be used once. However, this time, the Xinyuan family and the Li family bid together, causing the price to soar. In the end, the Xinyuan family won the rights to the pill at the price of 350,000 earth crystals. Emperor-grade pills were very precious. Even as one of the three sovereigns, the Xinyuan family had very limited reserves. Although they won in the end, Xinyuan Wuba was very domineering. If Li Yaxu had not deliberately raised the price to compete with him, 100,000 earth crystals would have been enough to get the pill. No one dared to compete with the Xinyuan family. In the end, the Li family made them pay 3 times the price. Even so, Xinyuan Wuba did not want to admit defeat. The Li family and the Xinyuan family are really incompatible. Qin Hao analyzed the situation in his heart. The two families ruled the same empire, and it was highly likely that they would want to swallow the other. However, this auction also showed that the southern region was a high-level forest. Once the top forces interfered in the auction, the first-rate forces would voluntarily withdraw. The auction continued. Cultivation techniques, various weapons, mysterious spells, herbs, mounts, and demonic beasts were all presented on the auction stage. Their grades were not low. However, Qin Hao was not interested in any of them. The appraiser Li Beitong, on the other hand, the more Qin Hao looked at him, the stranger he felt. He could not pinpoint exactly what was strange about him. In short, They seemed to know each other. However, in Qin Hao's impression, he had never interacted with Li Beitong. 3 Imperial weapons and 5 Imperial-grade pills. Qin Lao and Master Gu have earned a lot today. Qin Hao looked at the two of them with a smile. He had completely lost interest in the auction. My young friend, your attainments in alchemy and weapon refinement are extraordinary. You can recognize them one by one. Those items are in our hands. Qin Lao was very surprised. A true alchemist and weapon refinement master has imperceptibly injected soul into each of their works. Qin Lao's soul and Master Gu's soul aura are very easy to recognize, although Master Gu's soul is not very special. Qin Hao smiled. You stinking brat. How can you say that? Doesn't your conscience hurt? Gu Huangshou cursed in a low voice. He was very angry. Not only did he take away his weapons, but he also said that his skills were not good. How shameless. The next item is a music score. There are no elders in the 3 sovereigns and 5 sects who dabble in music, so I can't play it for everyone. However, I believe that as long as I say its name, no one here will doubt the power of the music score. Li Beitong's voice suddenly became a little solemn. At the same time, a beauty in revealing clothes stepped onto the catwalk. She held a music score in her hand and walked elegantly past the audience. Her full breast trembled with every step she took. This is frightening song. It's Qin Kuang's music score. How can it be? At this moment, all the martial artists in the 3 districts who saw the name of the music score were extremely shocked. Qin Kuang, another legendary figure in the southern region, was on par with the enchantment Emperor Ling Yangzi. Qin Kuang was also known as the Zither Emperor. Frightening Song was one of the 3 most powerful songs he had created. Once it was played, the world would be frightened. It was said that when this song was played, there were 2 completely opposite effects. One was to disturb the enemy's mind. When one's Zither skills reached the Emperor level, one note was enough to break the willpower of a person of the same level and even directly annihilate the divine soul. It was very terrifying. However, when one's friends heard it, their blood would boil and they would erupt with a combat strength that was beyond ordinary. When these 2 effects were displayed at the same time, it could instantly affect the balance of the battle. It was very terrifying. Unfortunately, Qin Kuang died early. No one knew how he died, who killed him, or where he died. In short, the frightening song had not been played in the southern region for hundreds of years. Qin Kuang's mountain peak had been razed to the ground. Haha, since everyone knows the frightening song, it's easy. The starting price of the mid-emperor grade music score is 500,000 earth crystal stones. Each increment must be no less than 100,000. The highest bidder wins. Let's begin, Li Beitong said. When he finished speaking, Qin Hao accurately caught Li Beitong's eyes. There was a trace of loneliness in his eyes, as if he was regretting something. At the same time, Chang Halo from the Spiritual Bee sect was also staring at the frightening song in the pretty girl's hand. He was a beast tamer who was best at mind controlling demonic beasts. Music was his specialty. How could he let go of the chance to compete for the frightening song? This was definitely the most suitable thing for him. Chapter 1257. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. What is a gentleman? 500,000. Chang Halo said decisively and directly. The 3 elders beside him nodded. The music score was rare, and the control of the soul song was amazing. Coupled with the sect's art of taming beast, the beast tamer's ability would be significantly improved. 500,000 for an emperor-level technique was extremely low. However, there were very few musicians in the southern region, and even fewer talented musicians. The competition would not be too cruel. Otherwise, how could Qin Kuang's unique technique be so low? The sect leader ordered us to bid for the ancient beast. We are lucky enough to encounter Senior Qin Kuang's unique technique. It will cost a lot to compete for the music score, but it will definitely be worth it. Elda once said. He gave Chang Halo an encouraging look, telling him to give it his all. Qin Hao looked back and met Chang Halo's eyes. His eyes were full of confidence, as if telling everyone that he was determined to win. At the same time, he sneered at Qin Hao. He did not hide his sarcasm, as if he was mocking Qin Hao for not knowing music. Qin Hao was indeed not good at music, but Chang Hello wanted to compete for the music score? No way. Not for anything else, but for Chang Helo's displeasure. Besides, Tang Xingqian had warned Qin Hao before that he would avenge the spiritual beast sect. He would not let him win a single hair in today's auction. Qin Hao wanted to see who would not be able to bid for a single hair. 600,000. A voice came from behind. He shouted first. Qin Hao was stunned. He looked at the person. This person was a refined scholar. He was dressed plainly, but he gave off a sense of elegance. Unlike Chang Hello, his elegance came from within. He must have been well-educated. This person sat behind Qin Hao in the purple area. He did not look like a descendant of the three emperors or a disciple of the four sects, which made people curious. 700,000. Qin Hao said. Although the scholar intended to compete with Chang Hello, what did it have to do with him? He would slap his own face. Wow. There was an uproar in the auction house. Many people looked at Chang Hello, the refined scholar, and Qin Hao. They had thought that the soul song would not be sold if no one. Because Qin Kuang's music score was extraordinary, it could easily make the player's song in translation. It could even damage the song. However, three competitors, among this generation in the southern region, there seemed to be many people with music. 800,000. The scholarly man looked at Qin Hao and leisurely smiled. He continued to raise the price. There was no malice in his smile, nor was there any anger. Naturally, there were people who knew the value of good things. Qin Hao had taken the initiative to compete, which made Qin Kuang's song even more extraordinary. Translation thousand translation. Initially, he didn't want to snatch the scholar's beloved item. He only wanted to suppress Chang Hello. Translation. Wang that was. The fair. Translation. The Tang song. Translation. This person is crazy. Even if you want to compete for the score, you don't need to be so ruthless. What do you know? A nouveau riche doesn't walk the normal path. TSK. How is he a nouveau riche? He just clung onto young Master Ning's thigh and has City Lord Ning's support. In the end, the Ning family will pay. Chang Helua's expression instantly turned extremely ugly. He wanted to get the soul song for 500,000. He thought that no one would compete with him. The refined scholar was fine, but Qin Hao was even worse. He raised the soul song to 1,500,000. 1,500,000. This was all that Chang Hello had. It was all that the spirit beast sect master had given him. It was not that the sect master was stingy, but the spirit beast sect was poor and had many disciples. Who would need to cultivate? Chang Hello was the sect master's direct disciple. 1,500,000 was not a small amount. However, he couldn't imagine that Qin Hao would be so nouveau riche. Chang Helo's hands trembled a little. At this time, among the 8 pavilions, there was one that belonged to the Ning royal family. Chao Fan, does your teacher know music? Ning Hongxian asked. He was in the pavilion, but he could see the scene outside at a glance. Generally speaking, the 3 sovereigns and 4 sects would not pay attention to other people's bidding unless they saw something they liked. However, Qin Hao's identity was a little special. After all, he was considered a member of the Ning family. I'm not too sure about this. Ning Chao Fan smiled. Music? Maybe his teacher knew music. After all, he knew how to forge weapons, refine pills, and set up formations. If Qin Hao knew music, it would be normal because he wasn't human. In that case, you can go. As a member of the Ning royal family, help your teacher get the soul song. Ning Hongxian said. Thank you, brother. Ning Chao Fan took the order and left. Brother 1, 5 million is not a small amount. Is it worth it for an outsider? Ning Feiong, the 3rd prince, said with some dissatisfaction. If his brother asked Ning Chao Fan to go, wouldn't the Ning royal family pay for the bidding? Your Highness, the 3rd prince, Golden Light City will pay for Mr. Qin's money. We won't touch the national treasury, City Governor Ning said. Ning Feiong's eyebrows twitched. Wasn't the Golden Light City's money the Ning family's money? Wasn't it the same? Feiyang, don't be so short-sighted, Ning Hongxian said. He thought for a while and said, Come, tell the third prince what we've found. Yes, your highness. A powerful warrior with a sword on his back walked in. He knelt on one knee and said in a deep voice, The outstanding woman in the Xianyuan family team is Chao Fan's teacher's woman. She's now under Xianyuan Wuying's control. She'll be the 19th concubine the day after tomorrow. Boom. Ning Feiyang's head trembled. Was it true? This was not the result he wanted to see, because it might cause a conflict between the Ning family and the Xianyuan family. Xianyuan Wuying cares about that woman very much. Although she's his 19th concubine, she may be his legal concubine in the future, Ning Hongxian said. Your Highness! City Governor Ning suddenly stood up. He was a little anxious. Since it had been confirmed, he certainly hoped that the first prince would intervene and let Xianyuan Wuying hand over the woman. After all, Qin Hao had saved Ning Chaofan's life. The Ning family owed Qin Hao. However, Ning Feiyang's face turned gloomy and he didn't say a word. Seventh uncle, sit down. There's no hurry. Ning Hongxian waved his hand and asked City Governor Ning to sit back down. Then he looked outside the attic and fixed his eyes on Qin Hao. You want Thriller Song? Sure. The Ning family will pay for it? Sure. But it's over. Alas. City Governor Ning sighed helplessly. How could he not understand that Ning Hongxian wanted to cut off Qin Hao's escape route and didn't want to save him? But City Governor Ning had no other choice. He was afraid that this time, as a father, he would disappoint his son. 1. 6 million. 1. 8 million. 1. 9 million. Outside, the bidding for Thriller Song was still going on. But Chang Lo didn't have anything to do with it. From the moment he called out 500,000, the situation was completely out of control. At present, only Qin Hao and the Elegant Scholar were competing. 1. 9 million was what the Elegant Scholar called out. What do you think? If you add another 100,000, I'll give up. The Elegant Scholar smiled faintly and looked at Qin Hao with clear eyes. There was no hostility, only appreciation. If Qin Hao really liked Thriller Song, he was willing to give it up. It wasn't that the storyteller was scared. He didn't care about money, but he didn't want Qin Hao to sacrifice too much for it. A gentleman should help others achieve their dreams. 9 Heavens Divine Emperor. Chapter 1258. Ancestral Ning family Qin Hao met that clear gaze. He knew that it wasn't because he couldn't win, but because he wanted to help him. However, Qin Hao really didn't understand music scores. He was only competing to suppress Chang Lo. At this moment, he was considering whether he should give it to the refined scholar. After all, Chang Lo was too poor to continue competing. The martial artists from the 3 regions watched the two of them, waiting to see what choice Qin Hao would make. Would he continue to raise the price and take back the Zither Emperor's lost art? Or would he admit defeat and withdraw from the competition? 2 million. Panic Song. The Herbal Medicine Hall will accept it. Tang Xingqian suddenly stood up. Everyone was surprised. Why would someone from the Herbal Medicine Hall bid for it if they weren't good at music scores? Tang Xingqian smiled. Although I'm not good at music, this song is Senior Qin Kuang's lost art. Qin Kuang was peerless when he was alive. Wouldn't it be tarnished if his art fell into the hands of a rascal? My sworn brother, Chang Lo, was accepted as a personal disciple by the Spirit Beast sect leader. His musical attainments are unparalleled among his peers. Only heroes deserve treasures. I bid for the Panic Song as a gift to my sworn brother. I hope you won't refuse. Tang Xingqian said to Chang Lo from afar. The martial artists immediately understood. Tang Xingqian wanted to give it to Chang Lo. The Herbal Medicine Hall was so generous. However, they had the backing of Hao. 2 million earth crystals was nothing to the Alchemy sect. However, Tang Xingqian's words were a bit harsh. If Qin Hao obtained the music score, it would be tarnished. If Chang Lo obtained it, it would be a treasure worthy of a hero. Was he purposely stepping on their faces? Thank you, brother. Although I'm not talented, I can't bear to see Senior's lost art fall into the hands of someone who doesn't understand music. I'll accept the music score. Changhe Lo smiled, exuding a free and easy aura. He bowed in the direction of the herbal medicine hall's sect leader, Tang Du. At the end of the day, Tang Du had the final say in the herbal medicine hall. He didn't stop him, which meant that he had tacitly approved of Tang Xingqian's actions. Moreover, the Spirit Beast sect and the herbal pill hall had been on good terms for generations. The closer the relationship between the two most outstanding juniors was, the happier the elders would be. Not long after, the South Pole Divine Palace would open. The younger generation of the two first-rate forces would join forces. Thriller Song deserved to be fought for. 2,210,000. Qin Hao's face darkened as he stood up to bid. Stepping on my face? Herbal Medicine Hall? On the other hand, Qin Hao felt sorry for the refined scholar. It seemed that there was no way he could give the song to him. Boy, I've told you that you won't get anything. Do you want to compete with me? Tang Xingqian laughed silently and shouted, 22 million. 25 million. The Ning family wants the music score. Why don't you try shouting again? A figure stepped out of the pavilion. It was Ning Chaofan. Ignoring all the bidders present, he went up the stage and grabbed the Thriller Song in Jelly's hand. He went directly to Qin Hao and said with a smile, Teacher, this is a gift from your disciple. Only in your hands can the Thriller Song show the brilliance of the Zither Maniac. Wouldn't it be tarnished if it fell into the hands of others? Ning Chaofan looked at Li Beitong and said expressionlessly, Master Li, you can announce it now. This. The square was silent. The Ning family was too domineering. Of course, Golden Light City was the Ning family's territory. A strong dragon couldn't suppress a snake in its own territory. The Herbal Medicine Hall's failure was justified. Besides, the Ning family wasn't a snake. They were real dragons. They were one of the top forces of the Three Kings. Who could shake them? Even though Tang Du was unhappy, there was nothing he could do. He secretly shook his head at Tang Xingqian, indicating that he had given up. At least you have some conscience. My brother-in-law didn't save you for nothing. When Kay saw that Ning Chaofan had returned, she rolled her eyes at him. She was very angry just now that someone had questioned her brother-in-law's ability. Was Changhe Lo a hero? Was he worthy? Miss K. Please calm down. I will perform well in front of teacher in the future. Teacher knows what I'm thinking, right? Ning Chaofan winked at Qin Hao. Yes, I'm starting to think that the battle armor suits you. Qin Hao patted Ning Chaofan's shoulder. Ning Chaofan was overjoyed. It was all for the Cancer Temple's battle armor. Wait. Tang Xingqian was angry. Since the sect leader had said that he would give up, he naturally couldn't compete with Ning Chaofan. However, he still wanted to try. Young Master Ning, all the major sects in the Southern Mountain Range know that the Spiritual B sect is the best at music. The Thriller Song is a good match for my sworn brother. It's his favorite. Why do you have to snatch it from him? Wasn't the humiliation yesterday not harsh enough? If you snatch his Thriller Song, won't you be destroying his future? What does his future have to do with us? According to what you said, the Thriller Song was passed down by Changhe Lo's ancestors and belongs to him? Qin Hao glanced at Tang Xingqian. There was something wrong with this person's brain. Idiot, you. Do you know how to play the guqin? Tang Xingqian was so angry that his body trembled. If you don't disgrace Senior Guqin Kuang's unique skill, the guqin score can be yours. But before that, do you dare to play a song with my sworn brother? I have to play just because you asked me to. Who do you think you are? Qin Hao didn't have time to pay attention to him and sat back down. Not to mention that he really didn't know how to play the song. Even if he did, how could he play it for everyone to hear? Who did he think Dendi was? A street performer? Enough. We don't want this Thriller Song. Leader one of the Spiritual Beast sect roared. His eyes were red with anger. At this point, the outcome couldn't be changed. After all, the Ning family was a top force. Creak. Changhe Lo's hand that was holding the flute was bursting with blue veins. He stared coldly at Qin Hao and said, I hope that one day you can listen to me play a song to purify your soul. I'm afraid that your song will dirty my ears. Qin Hao replied bluntly, Purify me? I still want to refine a pill for you. Let's see who will purify who. This storm temporarily subsided. The disciples of the spiritual beast sect were extremely angry. However, due to the power of the Ning family, they couldn't vent their anger. The auction continued. "Brother, you really don't know how to play the song?" the elegant scholar asked. Compared to before, his tone was a bit colder. He withdrew from the competition because he thought that Qin Hao knew how to play the song, loved it, and appreciated it. He had the talent for it. However, if the other party was really just here to make up the numbers and was purely a troublemaker, he couldn't tolerate the thriller song being buried. "Yes, I really don't know. I'm really sorry," Qin Hao said frankly. When dealing with magnanimous people, he naturally had to be open and above board. "Why bother? Alas, double the reward. Give me the song," the elegant scholar said. "Who do you think you are?" Ning Chao fan stared at the elegant scholar. Who was he? Did he think he didn't exist? "I'll say it one last time. Give me the song. If not, the owner of Golden Light City will change. Do you believe me?" The elegant scholar warned Ning Chao fan with a cold look in his eyes. This glance seemed to penetrate Ning Chao fan's body, making him shudder. At the same time, two middle-aged men in green walked out from each side of the elegant scholar. They were very strong and had a heavy aura, giving people a sense of oppression like a giant mountain. In front of these two, even Qin Hao felt great pressure. "Brother, stop. The song is yours." Qin Hao took out the thriller song and threw it to the other party. He didn't intend to bid, but he didn't like Chang Hello. The elegant scholar was a generous person. The other party must be an expert in music. Anyway, it was useless to keep the song score by his side, so he might as well give it to the other party now. More importantly, the two middle-aged men in green next to him were Emperor Stage powerhouses. It wouldn't be easy to clean up the mess. The elegant scholar was startled. Gift? He had bid for more than 2 million without batting an eyelid. "I don't mean anything else. I didn't mean to compete with you before. If you feel uncomfortable, you can give me the price you paid for it," Qin Hao said, secretly transmitting the cultivation of the two middle-aged men in green to Ning Chao fan. Ning Chao fan's face suddenly became serious. Emperor Stage slaves? This elegant scholar was not a simple person. Interesting. The elegant scholar couldn't help but look at Qin Hao a few more times. The guy who was so arrogant just now was giving it away. Was the thriller song so worthless? "I won't let you suffer a loss." The elegant youth smiled and waved to the middle-aged man beside him. The middle-aged man took 2 steps forward, took out a ring, and handed it to Qin Hao. There were 5 million earth crystals in it. "Before you act arrogant in the future, find out who you're facing. Don't forget your ancestors." The scholarly youth put away the soul-harrowing song and calmly looked at Ning Chao fan. This junior of the Ning clan gave him a very bad feeling. 9 Heavens Divine Emperor. Chapter 1259. Ancestral Line. Ancestral Line. This was a humiliation to the Golden Light City bloodline, a humiliation to the Ning royal family. It was a blatant provocation and trampling, and it was within the Ning Wu Empire. Tung! Ning Chao fan stood up. His eyes were like ice, but the blood in his body erupted like a volcano. No matter who the refined scholar was, no matter how great the power behind him was, even if he had an emperor's servant by his side, there was no room for discussion in this battle. "Do you want to die?" Ning Chao fan spoke, looking at the refined scholar. The refined scholar ignored Ning Chao fan's anger as if it was unimportant. He smiled and asked, "Where's the Ning clan's ancestral line?" "Of course it's in the Ning Wu Empire," Ning Chao fan shouted. The whole southern region knew, even ghosts knew. The refined scholar shook his head. His eyes were still calm, without any distracting thoughts. In the past, the southern region was in turmoil. Heroes rose, and killings were endless. There were no 3 emperors in that era. It was chaotic and bloody. Ancestor Ning Wu couldn't bear the oppression of the strong. He led his clan and his 5 sons to conquer the empire's territory. He established a prosperous Ning Wu Empire, and the people lived in peace. However, of the 153 clan members who went to war, 138 died. Of the 5 sons, 3 died. What is the ranking of your so-called Ning Wu Empire bloodline? This Ning Chao fan was stunned. This was the ancient history of the Ning clan, so he naturally knew about it. Why did the refined scholar know about it? And it seemed to be even more detailed. When ancestor Ning Wu went to war, 3 of his 5 sons died, leaving only 2. One was the 3rd son, and the other was the 5th son. Today, Ning Wu Empire was sitting on the throne, and he was the descendant of the 5th son. The Golden Light City bloodline was the same. It was just that the Golden Light City bloodline was not the direct line. However, above the 5 sons, there was a 3rd son, who was also the orthodox line. According to the genealogy, the ancestor established the Ning Wu Empire. He died the next year, and the throne was inherited by the 5 sons. In fact, this was not the case. Logically speaking, the eldest brother was the leader, and the 3rd son should be the Ning Wu Emperor, whose prestige could shake the world. But he gave up. He brought his wife and children back to the Ning family's birthplace and hid his achievements and fame. Before she left, she only glanced at him once. Her eyes were filled with love for her youngest brother. The emperor was not important. 5 brothers had left the mountain, and 3 had died. He only wanted his younger brother to be safe. He wanted to sit in a prosperous era and become the emperor. My surname is also Ning. I'm from the Grand Ding Duchy. His tone was as calm as ever. He took out a token and threw it into Ning Chaofan's arms. Ning Chaofan lowered his head and glanced over. His face was filled with fear and his legs trembled. He suddenly knelt down in front of the scholar, trembling uneasily and unable to speak. That's right. The origin of the Ning family's ancestral line was a forest in the Grand Ding Duchy. Now, the forest had become the king's palace. As for Martial Ning Imperial City, although it was called a holy land by the Ning clan, only the descendants of the 5th son lived there. In fact, the true origin of the Ning family's ancestral line was in the Grand Ding Duchy. They came from there. Ning Chaofan's breathing was heavy, and his whole body was drenched in sweat. He finally knew the identity of the scholar. No wonder he dared to disregard the dignity of the Martial Ning imperial family. It was because he had enough status. Not to mention Ning Chaofan. Even City Lord Ning and Ning Hongxian were nothing. Even the current Ning Wu Emperor, in terms of seniority, had to call this elegant scholar as his great-grandfather. Although the Grand Ding Duchy was only a duchy, in terms of territory, it was under the control of the Martial Ning Empire. But in reality, who dared to control it? As long as the Grand Ding Duchy left the mountain, Emperor Ning Wu would have to hand over the country. Qin Hao watched quietly. The scholar in the dark was indeed not a simple character. He scared Ning Chaofan to this extent with just one sentence. Although he could not guess who the other party was, it was not difficult to see that the scholar had considerable weight in the entire Ning clan. You're a junior of the same family. I have no intention to bicker with you. However, as a descendant of the Ning family, you shouldn't be too superficial when judging people in the future. Get up, the scholar said. Ning Chaofan trembled as he got up. He bowed and handed the token to the other party. He did not dare to raise his head and said, "You're right. Grandson will remember it in his heart. Do you want me to not inform?" Ning Chaofan looked back at the attic. Ning Hongxian and Ning Hongxian were sitting inside. Now that the ancestor was at the door, it would be improper not to kneel. No need. From now on, you don't know me, and I don't know you. You don't know where I come from. Understand? The scholar said, his voice still so calm. But at this moment, every word he said was like a divine power bombarding Ning Chaofan's heart. I understand. Ning Chaofan nodded repeatedly. Even if he did not understand the ancestor's words, he had to understand. He really did not expect that someone from the Great Ding family would come to this auction. You may leave. The scholar smiled. He actually did not want to reveal his identity. Ning Chaofan was not worthy of his guidance. As he said, he just did not want the Ning family to be so superficial. Ning Chaofan returned to Qin Hao's side. After a brief conversation, He seemed to have wandered on the edge of life and death. After returning, he seemed to have lost all his strength. The arrogance on his body was completely gone. He had completely lost his temper. A sentence from a scholar could indeed easily change the master of the Golden Light City branch. "Oh, you look like a grandson meeting his ancestor. Are you shocked?" Qin Hao lowered his head and said to Ning Chaofan. Ning Chaofan did not dare to say anything. Then Qin Hao turned around and looked at the scholar. "Big brother, is your family in the Great Ding Duchy?" Plop. Ning Chaofan slid down from his chair in fright. The ancestor had just said that he was not allowed to say where he came from. Was his teacher trying to kill him? It would be better to stab himself. At least he would not implicate the people of the Golden Light City branch. Yes. The scholar smiled. He was amiable and approachable, not at all as terrifying as Ning Chaofan had seen. "I have something to discuss. For the sake of Thriller Song, can you help?" Qin Hao's eyes lit up. 23. Education 123 Literature Network. Chapter 1260. In the Huaishi County of the Great Ding Duchy, there was a place called the Nanlu Ruins. According to the Zhang family ancestors' analysis, Zheng Qingqi's clansmen walked out of the Nanlu Ruins. Li Wanji told Qin how that Ling Tianyu needed a sword herb to enchant the Great Void Divine Sword. The sword herb also grew in the Nanlu Ruins. Since the refined scholar was from the Great Ding Duchy, he was the perfect guide. After all, Qin Hao only knew the general route and the exact location of the Nanlu Ruins. He would have to continue searching when he arrived. "Just say it," the refined scholar said calmly. "I want a stalk of swordgrass. The older the better. After the auction is over, can you be my guide and take me to the ruins of Southern Lu Mountain?" Qin Hao replied with a bleak look in his eyes. He wondered if he would be able to survive after the auction. The two middle-aged men in green looked unhappy, their eyes cold. How dare he ask the crown prince of the Great Ding Duchy to be his guide? "It's a small matter, no problem." The refined scholar agreed with a smile. He liked the frightening soul song very much. Although Qin Hao was a little arrogant, he was a reasonable person and gave him a good impression. The two middle-aged men in green were stunned. The crown prince actually agreed? The crown prince liked peace and quiet and did not like to interact with others. He rarely went out and only indulged in music. He heard that the Guqin Maniac's music would appear in this auction, so he made a rare trip. Yet, he agreed to be a guide for a stranger. They found it unbelievable that the frightening soul song had such a high position in the crown prince's heart. It must be because of this that he agreed to Qin Hao's request. However, the white-haired martial artist was lucky to be accompanied by the crown prince of the Great Ding Duchy. One could imagine how sensational and glorious the scene would be. "Thank you." Qin Hao cupped his fists and turned around. Their actions did not attract anyone's attention. At this moment, the auction was in full swing. Everyone was crazily bidding for the treasures. Even Emperor Gu, who was closest to them, was so excited that he was blowing his beard and glaring at them. Who would keep their eyes on Qin Hao and Ning Chaofan? In this short period of time, there were more than 20 big transactions on the auction floor. Some people managed to bid for their favorite items, while others managed to sell their items for the ideal price. Although there was constant friction between the various powers, with the Xianyuan clan clamoring for the Li clan and the Blazing Sun Temple clashing with the Wuxord sect. However, their influence was not great. At most, they would quarrel a little. Even the top forces did not dare to fight. In the following auction, Qin Hao participated in 3 more auctions. The first 2 were still targeted at Changhalo. Changhalo didn't bring much money, but his appetite wasn't small. Almost all the treasures caught his eye, and he couldn't wait to buy them all one by one. Unfortunately, the Spirit Beast sect was too poor. However, after the soul-shaking song, an Emperor-grade Guqin and a string of beast bells appeared. Qin Hao didn't decline. The price he shouted was much higher than Changhalo's. After successfully obtaining both items, Changhalo was so angry that he vomited blood in front of everyone. Tang Xingqian really wanted to step forward, but Ning Chaofan wasn't someone to be trifled with either. Even though Tang Xingqian wanted to stand up for Changhalo, he couldn't. He felt extremely vexed. This was especially true when Qin Hao made a move for the third time. He targeted the herbal pill hall and inexplicably caused the herbal pill hall to lose a lot of money. In fact, the grades of those pills weren't high. They were meant for Yuan Monarch and Yuan Venerate martialists. The herbal pill hall's methods were also good, as they were all high-grade pills. They could only blame themselves for running into Dendi. Qin Hao's attainments in the alchemy Dao were too strong, and he didn't play by the rules. In the end, the herbal pill hall had lost a lot of face in front of millions of people. The pills hadn't achieved the desired effect, and had almost caused the auction to fail. In the end, Sect Master Tang Du apologized in front of everyone. He gritted his teeth and sold the pills at a low price. He didn't even earn back the cost of the ingredients. This was the sect's most humiliating incident in several hundred years. This time, it had greatly affected the herbal pill hall's reputation. It would be very difficult for them to do business in the future. In fact, Qin Hao's actions were paving the way for Dan Ji's rise. How could Duanmu Qing Wei not understand? There was no problem with the herbal pill hall's pills. It was Qin Hao's testing method that had deceived everyone and reduced the medicinal efficacy of the pills. Even Tang Du hadn't been able to see any clues. Duanmu Qing Wei also took a while to figure out the reason, but he wouldn't say it. After all, he and Qin Hao had a very friendly relationship. Herbal pill hall's Tang Du, he didn't have any friendship. Big brother, I'll give this Guqin to you. Qin Hao handed the emperor-level Guqin to the refined scholar. The refined scholar didn't refuse. When the Guqin was auctioned, he was also moved. However, Qin Hao was faster and saved him a lot of effort. How much did you buy it for? I won't let you suffer a loss. The refined scholar said gently. He took the Guqin and ordered the imperial servant beside him to give the earth crystals to Qin Hao. After a while, Qin Hao and the refined scholar chatted more and more happily. Both of them weren't mediocre people and got along quite well. Big brother, His Highness the Crown Prince, seems to be quite friendly with this white-haired junior. A middle-aged man with a sharp face secretly transmitted to the refined scholar. It's been a long time since I've seen His Highness so happy, another middle-aged man in blue replied. Why don't we bring this person back to the duchy and let him be His Highness's page boy to relieve His Highness boredom? The middle-aged man with a sharp face continued. After the auction ends, I'll test this child's talent. If he passes, there's no harm in bringing him back, the older middle-aged man said. The middle-aged man with a sharp face nodded. As the two conversed secretly, Qin Hao didn't know that he had already caught the attention of the Great Ding imperial family. I believe that everyone has benefited greatly from the auction. However, I'm sure everyone knows that the final treasure of this year's auction is the Saint's Soul Pill brought by Western Liang's Dan Ge. Although this pill's grade isn't high, it has epic-making significance and is enough to change the entire continent. This pill ignores a martial artist's talent and aptitude. There's no need to refine it. It can be upgraded in 1 second with a 100% success rate. There's no pain, no struggle. If an ordinary farmer eats one, he can instantly become a Saint Realm martial artist. It can be called a divine pill. Above the auction stage, Li Beitong's voice was like a stream flowing through the hearts of millions of people. At this moment, even the top appraiser couldn't hide the shock in his eyes. The Saint Soul Pill was worthy of the title of Divine Pill. Is it finally time? Qin Hao's lips slowly curled into a smile. Next up would be the auction of the two ancient beasts Huang and Ah and the Saint Soul Pill. After that, it would be time to save Xiao Han. Looking at the 7 pavilions behind the auction stage, they were like 7 ancient gods of war. They were tall and mighty, and people could only look up to them. The 3 emperors and 4 sects were the absolute representatives of the southern region's strength. Rescuing Xiao Han from under their noses would definitely cause a sensation in the entire southern region. Faintly, Qin Hao was trembling with excitement. Teacher, don't worry. My eldest brother said that once it's confirmed that Master's wife is in the hands of the Xinyuan family, the entire royal family will help you. My father will also support you. Ning Chao Fan said softly. Even he knew that the auction was about to end. Qin Hao smiled calmly. The entire royal family of Ning Wu would help him. It was possible to trick Ning Chao Fan, but to trick Dendi? Ning Hongxian was still too inexperienced. Of course, City Lord Ning was sincere in wanting to help. Everyone present knew how much he loved Ning Chao Fan. However, City Lord Ning couldn't represent the royal family of Ning Wu. He wanted to help, but he couldn't. Ning Chao Fan, since we've known each other for a long time, I'll give you a treasure. Give me your hand, Qin Hao said. He looked at Ning Chao Fan seriously. This disciple of the royal family's side branch was arrogant in the coiling dragon wonder. He had given Qin Hao a terrible impression. He had even made Qin Hao want to kill him. However, Ning Chao Fan had sacrificed himself to save K. In the mystic realm. He had followed Qin Hao all the way here, and he no longer had the airs of a young master. Qin Hao also saw this in his heart. Just as he said, he was sincere in becoming a disciple. However, their relationship as master and disciple had ended here. It wasn't that Qin Hao was cruel, but that the world was cruel. Chapter 1261. Fighting for the ancient beast. Ning Chao Fan stretched out his hand, feeling very excited. Was teacher finally willing to give up the Cancer Temple battle armor? The 12 ecliptic palaces battle armor, regardless of its grade or quality, its materials and refining methods were all ridiculously strong. Every one of them could be said to be invincible under Emperor weapons. During the siege of the 12 palaces, the mystic realm martial artists had suffered heavy casualties. The Cancer Temple battle armor was both offensive and defensive. It had a pair of glove-like pincers on the wrist that could be retracted freely. It was shaped like a weapon and was most suitable for Ning Chao Fan. After he wore it, it perfectly matched his cultivation technique and Scissor's source spirit. He had been longing for it for a long time. He had done all kinds of lowly things for Qin Hao, but his teacher had never been willing to give it to him. Today, his eldest brother had only shown his face once and expressed his attitude, yet his teacher had changed his mind. Ning Chao Fan secretly thought that Ning Hongshuan's face was still big. He was worthy of being the crown prince, mighty to the extreme. Ning Chao Fan's admiration for his eldest brother grew. But how could he know that Qin Hao giving the Cancer Temple battle armor had nothing to do with Ning Hongxian? He wanted to cut off Qin Hao's path of retreat and draw a clear line between them. Wasn't Qin Hao doing the same? By giving away the Cancer Temple battle armor, Qin Hao did not want people to think that he owed the Ning family anything. Of course, he did not owe the Ning family anything. He had even brought back a complete son for City Lord Ning. The two people's palms came close to each other. With a thought, a faint light was transferred from Qin Hao's interspatial ring to Ning Chao Fan's ring. Qin Hao had also completely cut off the connection between the Cancer Temple and the Sagittarius Temple. From now on, the Cancer Temple battle armor only recognized Ning Chao Fan. Thank you, teacher. Ning Chao Fan felt it for a moment. A dazzling golden battle armor was floating inside the ring, releasing a majestic and powerful aura. He was extremely excited. Artifacts are external objects. You can only be strong if you're strong. You cannot rely on it too much. In the future, you will have to rely on yourself. Qin Hao advised, but his heart was a little sad. In name, he was not his disciple. However, along the way, Qin Hao had selflessly imparted the essence of many formations to him. Wasn't Qin Hao also his disciple? In his previous life, Qin Hao only had 6 disciples, and Ning Chao Fan was the 7th. Teacher, what do you mean? Ning Chao Fan suddenly felt a little cold. It was as if the Cancer Temple battle suit had unknowingly severed some sort of relationship between him and Qin Hao. This feeling was very unbearable. Haha, it's nothing. I advise you to work harder. Qin Hao pretended that nothing had happened and said with a smile. Ning Chao Fan was a dandy disciple through and through. He could be arrogant, but he was no match for Ning Hongxian when it came to imperial power. At this moment, the auction had reached a critical moment. With Li Beitong's explanation of the Saint Soul Elixir, many forces were in high spirits and prepared to compete. However, as Qin Hao had guessed, they did not directly present the Saint Soul elixir. Instead, they first auctioned off Ah He and Huang. Ancient beasts were not ordinary demonic beasts. They were very rare and should be called rare beasts or quasi-divine beasts. After all, the ancient centaurs contained the power of God's blessing in their bodies. Centaurs were born with strong physical resistance and were immune to 50% of physical attacks. Because of the power of God, they were immune to 30% of elemental energy attacks. They were almost invincible against those of the same level. If they were classified as human prodigies, with Ah He and Huang's talents, it would not be an exaggeration to say that they were among the top prodigies of the southern region. For example, they might not be stronger than Yu Qianyang of the Blazing Sun Temple or Shou Wuk of the Wuxword sect, but they were definitely stronger than Chang Lo of the Spiritual Beast sect and Tang Xingchen of the Herbal Elixir Hall. Buying them was equivalent to buying 2 superclass prodigies. Who wouldn't be tempted? Prodigies were always in short supply. As for cultivation resources, that was secondary. No matter how many resources there were, if a sect did not have any talents, it would be a waste. With Ah He and Huang's talents, even if they could not be treated fairly by humans, they would still be terrifying when they cultivated to the level of a beast emperor. The people of the 3 sovereigns and 4 sects would not be absent from this transaction. When Qin Hao raised his head to look at the auction stage, one of the Blazing Sun Temple's experts on the 7 stone pillars moved. He made a grabbing motion in the air, and 2 huge iron cages flew over, landing heavily on the square. Suddenly, the ground shook. In the iron cages, Ah He and Huang struggled frantically. Previously, Ning Xiaofan had told them not to resist, as they would only suffer in vain. Qin Hao would save them. However, at this moment, they were being watched by millions of people as if they were monkeys. How could Ah He and Huang not be angry? They were the precious beasts of the Medicine Valley, the loyal guardians and supporters of the Beast Emperor. They had always regarded humans as ants. They had never been treated like monkeys by the humans they despised. Silence! The expert from the Blazing Sun Temple shouted as he circulated his powerful fire attack. A flaming whip appeared in his hand out of thin air, and with a sharp whistling sound, he whipped Ah He and Ah Huang from high up in the sky. Even though the centaur beasts had amazing resistance, the whip still left a huge bloody wound on their bodies, and their flesh was torn open. Roar! The dog spirit stood upright, flames coming out of its mouth as it glared at the Blazing Sun Temple expert. Don't be rash. Qin Hao transmitted his voice. The dog spirit sat back down, but its eyes were filled with hatred. Everyone, in the ancient times, the celestial race and the demon race fought a great war. Many rare beasts joined the battle and made great contributions. In the end, the celestial realm won and suppressed the demon race in the 9 underworlds. However, the mortal realm was also affected. Bones were everywhere, and many injured beasts were unable to return to the celestial realm. They were gradually forgotten by the celestial race. The 2 centaur warriors on the stage were also part of the celestial race. Old Man doesn't need to say more about their talents. All the sect masters and sect masters are influential figures in the southern region. You should know, Li Beitong said. Master Li, there's no need to say more. Just name the price. The Thunder Demon Temple will definitely get these 2 beasts. Someone shouted. You think we'll get what you say? We, the Rune Origin Pavilion, want these 2 beasts. Everyone in the southern region knows that the Spirit Beast sect, from the sect elders to the disciples and servants, all cultivate the Tao of beast taming. Demonic beasts are the foundation of our sect's survival. I hope you won't snatch our treasures. Elder Wan said. He was the same as Chang Lo. He spoke as if all the treasures in today's auction belonged to the Spirit Beast sect, and others were snatching their things. The Lufeng Kingdom wants these 2 beasts. The Heavenly Divine Platform won't let you get what you want. The Arhut Palace lacks 2 Divine Guardian Beasts. The Night Luo Palace also lacks. Instantly, there was a heated debate. Not only the first-rate forces, but also the small forces, small countries, and even the top forces were showing a tough stance. However, in the 7 pavilions, the Wuxord sect, the Leaf family, the Xianyuan family, and Ninghong Xian were all tempted. Ahe and Huang were extremely valuable. Once they grew into beast emperors, they would be terrifying existences among the emperor level. Only the people from the Blazing Sun Temple had cold smiles on their faces. 9 Heavens Divine Emperor. Chapter 1262. See Luke Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. The competition was intense. The 2 ancient beasts were unyielding and unyielding. They could not be tamed, not even by the spirit beast sect. Once the methods were too harsh, they would rather commit suicide than submit to the will of humans. If not, why would the Blazing Sun Temple auction them? Wouldn't it be better to keep them as their guardian beasts? They would be suitable to be Yu Qianyang's demon pet. The sect members were too naive. So, instead of keeping them useless, they might as well earn some money to spend. They were picked up anyway. Sect leaders, you are all people of status. If you quarrel and break the relationship between the sect, won't you become a joke to the younger generation? Save your energy to compete with the price. Now, Old Man announces that 1 ancient beast will be 800,000 earth crystals. 2 will be 1,600,000. The starting bid will be 2 million earth crystals. Each bid must not be lower than 200,000 earth crystals. The highest bidder wins. Let's begin. Li Beitong looked at the experts of the Blazing Sun Temple on the stone pillar and smiled faintly. The atmosphere had been stirred up by him. The final price of the ancient beast would depend on the opinions of the big shots below. The experts of the Blazing Sun Temple returned the gesture. The ancient beasts were precious. If not for Li Beitong's strong instigation, the bidding for the ancient beasts would not be so intense. He was indeed Mr. Fenghua. 2 million earth crystals? Many people's hearts trembled. The lively scene suddenly became silent. It was too high. Small forces could not compete at all. The starting price was enough to make them shrink back. Masterly, why is the price so high? Chang'e Lo shouted. Among everyone, he was the most uncomfortable. The sect leader only gave him 1,500,000 earth crystals. He was determined to get the ancient beasts. However, when it came to the competition, he did not have enough money. Furthermore, he had been continuously suppressed by Qin Hao. Thus, he had taken a liking to many treasures. However, the reality was that Chang'e Lo had yet to obtain even a single strand of hair. As the eldest disciple of the spirit beast sect, who could understand this feeling? Yes, Masterly. 1 ancient beast is 800,000 earth crystals. 2 is 1,600,000 earth crystals. But why is your starting price at 2 million earth crystals? It's against the rules, isn't it? Could it be that Masterly thinks we don't know how to count? A sect leader questioned. I'm sorry, this has nothing to do with Masterly. It's our Blazing Sun Temple's fault for not making things clear. Everyone, please take a look. The Blazing Sun Temple's expert waved the flaming whip in his hand. This whip is made from the mountain rocks of our Blazing Sun Mountain. It's tempered in the sacred fire and infused with Yuan Qi to guide the fire elemental energy. Its lethality is astonishing, even though it's only a middle exalted level artifact. You've all seen how the ancient beast's powerful immunity was unable to withstand the might of that whip. These 2 vile beasts are extremely unyielding. If we want to tame them, without our Blazing Sun Temple's flame whip, I'm afraid it won't be easy. At this point, the Blazing Sun Temple expert revealed a treacherous smile. So, including this whip, the total is 2 million. I see. Everyone came to a sudden realization. Buying 2 ancient beasts for a free whip seemed to be a good deal. The Blazing Sun Temple was very righteous. However, a mere medium Zun weapon cost 400,000 earth crystal stones. That kind of broken item wasn't worth it at all. After all, a medium Zun weapon was only worth 400,000 earth crystal stones. Wasn't the Blazing Sun Temple robbing a burning house? Although they thought so in their hearts, no one dared to say it out loud. No one was stupid enough to provoke the top forces. Moreover, the blazing Sun Temple's flames seemed to have a restraining effect on the ancient beasts. If it weren't for their powerful immunity, a mere Zune weapon wouldn't be able to harm them at all. After all, the two ancient beasts were also Zune beasts. This, Elder Wan, what should we do? Changhalo looked at the other party anxiously. Buying the two ancient beasts was his master's order. It wasn't just for his own good, it was also related to the sex matters. One must know that the two ancient beast talents were astonishing. In the future, they wouldn't be weaker than Changhalo. They might even be stronger than him. Let's go find Master Tang. Follow the old man. Elder Wan led all the spirit beast sect disciples towards the purple area. At this point, it was impossible for them to withdraw from the competition. The ancient beasts were too important. The only thing they could do now was to ask for Tang Du's help. Soon, the spirit beast sect team passed through the crowd and met up with the herbal medicine hall. No one knew what Elder Wan said to Master Tang, but Tang Du's eyes lit up. He nodded heavily and said loudly, 2 million. I'll take the ancient beasts. Since the spirit beast sect was willing to pay 1 million earth crystals for one of the ancient beasts, they would help the herbal medicine hall tame the other one for free. Every year, they would choose a few other demonic beasts and tame them as mounts for the herbal medicine hall disciples. Naturally, Master Tang wouldn't refuse. After all, alchemists were actually very weak. Because they spent most of their time refining pills, their cultivation was lacking. If they had a powerful demonic beast to protect them, their combat power would greatly increase. 2 million. As someone spoke, a second voice sounded. Everyone raised their heads to look at the source of the voice. It was an extremely muscular, bald, and wearing shorts on one of the 7 stone pillars. It was an expert from the Arhut Palace who had spoken. The Arhut Palace was participating in the competition. 2 million, a half-step female emperor on the 7 stone pillars said coldly. Since she was a woman, she was obviously a powerhouse from the Night Luo Palace. Her expression seemed to be more serious than everyone else's. She gave people the feeling that she had to win the ancient beast. 6 million. Suddenly, a majestic voice came from a pavilion. It came from the Li family of Bayo. 8 million. Closely after that, Xinyuan Wuba's arrogant roar sounded. Hiss! Everyone was shocked. The 3 sovereigns and 4 sects had intervened. This meant that the second-rate and first-rate forces had lost the right to compete. At this moment, many nobles and high and mighty sect leaders shook their heads. Since the 3 sovereigns and 4 sect had intervened, they had nothing to do with it. In the purple area, the elegant scholar smiled at Qin Hao. Although the ancient beasts were very talented and precious, he didn't like them. He only loved music. But this time, would the white-haired cultivator participate? Uncle Tang Du. Changhalo was extremely nervous. First-rate forces couldn't participate when the 3 sovereigns and 4 sects showed up. This was almost an unspoken rule in the southern region. Otherwise, it might lead to the destruction of the sections. Don't worry, Tang Du wasn't calm either. He didn't expect that the 3 sovereigns and 4 sects, who had so many emperor-level cultivators, would compete for 2 venerable-level demonic beasts. The ancient beast potential was indeed great. Although he felt a little pressured, Tang Du wasn't scared. He wasn't an ordinary person. He was one of the few royal-grade alchemists in the southern region. He was a very special existence. Although his alchemy skills were a little inferior to Duanmu Qingwei, the first elder of the left faction of the Wan Cultivator Alliance, he firmly believed that the 3 sovereigns and 4 sects wouldn't vent their anger on him because of the 2 ancient beasts. After all, the southern region needed a royal-grade alchemist like him. 3 million, shouted Tang Do. He suddenly stood up and stared fearlessly at the 7 stone pillars and the 7 pavilions that towered like gods of war. Today was the first time he had challenged the 3 sovereigns and 4 sects. Even if he failed, he would be glorious. Chapter 1263. Translator, Henyi Translations Editor. Hinyi translations, the second master is too handsome. Many people looked at him with admiration. Clan leader Tang was so bold that many people felt that they were inferior to him. Tangdu enjoyed these gazes very much. The experts of the three emperors and four sects frowned slightly, but didn't say anything. They were competing openly, so one more Tangdu wasn't a big deal. In recent years, the herbal pill hall's days have been too stable, making Tangdu a bit arrogant and daring to participate. The situation in the Southern Territory really needs to change. Inside the pavilion, the third prince, Ning Feiyong, smiled while looking at his first brother. Ning Hongxian raised his wine cup, swirled the wine inside, and drank it all in one gulp. He said, Dan Gu of Western Liang came at the right time. With the support of the Ning family, it's only a matter of time before the herbal medicine hall is destroyed. Brother, I admire you for planning ahead. Ning Feiyong said, should we make a move now? The Arhut Palace, Knight Luo Palace, Li family, and Xianyuan family all stood out. As the host, the Ning family would be stingy if they didn't step in. Make your bid, Ning Hongxian ordered. The two ancient beasts were worth competing for. Ning Feiyong nodded and walked to the window. For a million. A loud shout came from below, like a wave rising in everyone's heart. It directly crushed Master Tang's bid of 1 million. Ning Feiyong looked in the direction of the voice and was stunned. Anger appeared on his face. The person who shouted was Qin Hao. He really thinks too highly of himself. Ning Feiyong was so angry that he sneered. Who would get the ancient beast before him? After all, the money was paid by the Ning family. He was just a small hanger-on. His heart was insatiable, and he wanted to swallow an elephant. He was a greedy person. Ning Feiyong remembered clearly that Qin Hao spent 5 million on the Ning family to compete for the Thriller song. The Guqin and Beast Bell cost 900,000, so the total cost was 4 million. This money was paid by the Ning family. Although he had saved Ning Chaofan's life, he should have been clear about his own worth and should have known when to stop. But now there was no end to it. Ning Feiyong thought that 4 million earth crystals were enough to repay Qin Hao for saving Ning Chaofan's life. Now, this person wanted to bid for another 4 million. Who did he think the Ning family was? Was it his bank? You still have the face to shout? Ning Feiyong was very dissatisfied. He was not the only one who was dissatisfied. At this moment, Changhe Lo clenched his fists and looked at the white-haired youth who had stood up. It was him again. Previously, Changhe Lo's beloved music score, Guqin, and Beast Bell had all disappeared because of Qin Hao's interference. This time, he was determined to obtain the ancient beast. It was already difficult for him to withstand the pressure of the 3 sovereigns and 4 sects. However, Qin Hao still came to interfere. After the auction, I will make him disappear forever. Tang Xingqian gritted his teeth and said. The hatred in his heart was also rising. If Qin Hao had not tested the pills of the herbal elixir hall, the sect would not have suffered such a huge loss. The herbal elixir hall was supposed to make money this time. However, before they could make money, they had already lost their capital. This was unbearable. 5 million. Master Tang looked at Qin Hao. His eyes were full of awe-inspiring majesty, as if they had turned into 2 sharp swords to kill Qin Hao. This young man also made him very unhappy. Master Tang is so generous. He's not generous, he's angry. A man needs his face, and a tree needs its bark. Master Tang is going to go all out. The herbal elixir hall has dominated the southern region for thousands of years and has been in the pill business for generations. Its wealth is unimaginable. Although it's a first-rate sect, in terms of wealth, the 3 sovereigns and 4 sects might not be able to beat it. The 3 regions were abuzz with discussion. Everyone could see that Master Tang was going to stake everything on this one throw. The herbal elixir hall was indeed rich, but in terms of earth crystals, there were probably a few sects in the 3 sovereigns and 4 sects that could not compete with them. For example, the Arhut Palace, Nightnet Palace, and Wuxword sect. The Arhut Palace was the poorest among the top forces. Nightnet Palace had always been isolated, so it was not much better. Only the 3 sovereigns, might be able to compete with Tang Du in terms of wealth. Tang Du, Nightnet Palace will definitely get these two ancient beasts. Have you become muddle-headed from alchemy? At this time, the half-step empress on the stone pillar spoke. She was obviously angry, and her words were laced with threat. That white-hair martial artist had the support of the Ning family and was already very difficult to deal with. Tang Du, that old bastard. Why didn't he go back to making pills? Why did he suddenly raise the price to 5 million? Did he want to go against Nightnet Palace? Granny Tianshuang, who doesn't like treasures. Old man does things according to the rules of the auction house. If you're not convinced, just fight with your wealth. Are you trying to bully the herbal elixir hall because we don't have the arch? Tang Du said fearlessly. If a top force destroyed a first-rate sect, he would definitely not be able to resist. But from then on, Nightnet Palace would become a joke in the southern region, a coward who only knew how to bully the weak. Do you want to die? Granny Tianshuang was enraged. Essence Qi raged around her, and a storm surrounded the stone pillar. Senior Tianshuang, everyone in the southern region knows that the disciples of the spiritual beast sect like fiend beasts, but Nightnet Palace is not good at it. Why do you have to steal from us? We asked Uncle Tang of the Herbal Elixir Hall to help us because we have no other choice. Do you still want to force us? If that's the case, feel free to vent your anger on me. There's no need to vent it on Master Tang. You can kill me with one palm. Changhe Lo said in a sorrowful tone, as if he had suffered a great grievance. He was a junior. If the half-step Yuan the Arch of Nightnet Palace really killed him with one palm, it would be even more unbearable. What a sharp tongue. Granny Tianshuang dispersed her essence Qi and looked at the pavilion helplessly. It seemed that the palace master's wish couldn't be fulfilled. 5 million was beyond the sect's financial resources. Nightnet Palace was indeed relatively poor. Let me see which son of AB *TCH is ruining second master's good fortune. In the pavilion of Nightnet Palace, a furious roar rang out. A middle-aged man wearing a pointy green hat stepped toward the window and opened it with great force. A pair of funny triangular eyes stared in the direction of the Herbal Elixir Hall and the spiritual beast sect. Husband, let's discuss something. A soft voice came from behind the middle-aged man. It was extremely charming. There's no room for discussion. I want to take off my hat. The old demon naturally knew what the other party meant. Although the hat was a little ugly on the head, it was also a kind of cultivation that was helpful in improving one's strength. Since you like being cuckolded so much, I'll make you wear another one sooner or later. The soft voice said angrily. The old demon didn't have the time to respond. He glared fiercely at Tang Du a few times to remember this old man. Then, he looked at Ahei and Huang who were locked in the iron cage and felt very uncomfortable. Back then, he was also sent flying by the airflow of the mystic realm. However, he was lucky and bounced onto the bed of the Nightnet Palace Master. Sigh. Master isn't here, but I can't take care of the others. I feel guilty. The old demon sighed. Good brothers shared blessings and misfortunes. Now, he was enjoying blessings, but Ahei and Huang were suffering. He could only blame Second Master for being charming. Being handsome was also a sin. The owner of the soft voice didn't think so. That's right. Nightnet Palace's financial resources were indeed lacking. However, she didn't say that she had to compete with Tang Du in terms of financial resources. At worst, she could just kidnap Ahei and Huang. Would the Ning family and Blazing Sun Temple run to Nightnet Palace's nest and fight to the death with her for 2 demonic beasts? Although it might not be easy to resolve for her man, what could she do? 6 million. Suddenly, another voice came from below the stage, once again suppressing Master Tang's price. 9 Heavens Divine Emperor. Chapter 1264. The bid of 6 million instantly caused a stir. The price was too high. Such a sky-high price rarely appeared in an auction. The old demon could not help but turn his triangular eyes, revealing a ruthless look. Someone was still bidding. Did they want to fight to the death with Second Master? He looked down and was completely stunned. Gradually, the corners of his eyes began to moisten. What entered his eyes was a tall and straight young man with 2 strands of white hair fluttering in front of his forehead. Beside the young man sat a large dog. Although he stood calmly in the crowd, he vaguely emitted the aura of an emperor. "Master is not dead," the old demon muttered. His thoughts flew, and the scene of Pan Long Mountain appeared in his mind. The scene of the collapse was too terrifying. The sky collapsed, and the earth caved in as if the end of the world had arrived. Even now, he still had lingering fears when he recalled it. At that time, he watched as Qin Hao's body became weak and floated into the void. The old demon desperately tried to catch Qin Hao, but he was sent flying by a merciless airflow. He thought that Qin Hao was dead. Good. The old demon flicked his finger at the corner of his eye. He closed the window and turned to throw himself into a soft and delicate body. Since his master was here, everything would be fine. He did not need to worry anymore. He remembered that when they arrived at Beijiang, Qin Hao chased the old demon back and cut off the soul contract between them. Although the old demon still gave a strand of his soul consciousness to Qin Hao, it no longer had the effect of coexisting with life and death. During this period, the old demon had been asking the powerhouses of the Night Net Palace to find Qin Hao, but they had not received any news. They only found out that Ah and Huang had been captured. Therefore, he came to participate in the auction today. However, his master was also here. Hong, come. I'll introduce you to someone. Do you see the most handsome, white-haired martial artist below the stage? Right? Double quotation mark. Yes, I see him. Take your hand away. Why are you touching me when you're introducing me? Not at all, squeak. Immediately after, a beautiful sound that was rich in frequency came out from the pavilion. Off the stage, everyone's eyes once again converged on Qin Hao. 6 million? Was he going to fight to the death with Master Tang? Qin Hao had saved Ning Chaofan's life and was an honored guest of the Ning family. However, 6 million earth crystals was a little too shocking. Qin Hao had already sold more than 3 million earth crystals before this. Almost 10 million earth crystals was an enormous amount. It was enough to create a high-level Monarch realm expert. Even the Ning family's hearts were bleeding right now. At this moment, Master Tang, Chang Hello, Tang Xingqian, and all the disciples of the Spirit Beast sect and the Herbal Medicine Hall were furious. Bastard! Ning Feiong was completely furious. He crushed the teacup on the table into powder. He could not allow Qin Hao to do whatever he wanted. That was 6 million yuan. Tung! Ning Feiong turned into a streak of light and flew out in anger. Your Highness! City Lord Ning felt that something big was going to happen. He looked at Ning Hongxian. However, Ning Hongxian didn't stop him. He was leisurely drinking his wine. Apparently, he had also reached the limit of his patience toward Qin Hao. He felt that it was time for Ning Feiong to go and deal with him so that he could teach Qin Hao a lesson. Shut up. A dazzling light flew out of the pavilion and floated above Qin Hao's head. Ning Feiong was so angry that his face was trembling. He tried to restrain himself to maintain his composure. However, looking down at Qin Hao, he felt that he could not hold it in any longer. You are not allowed to participate in the auction anymore. Ning Feiong took 2 deep breaths and coldly pointed at Qin Hao. Qin Hao frowned slightly and looked up at this member of Ning Wu's immediate family. How did he offend him? Third Imperial brother. What do you mean by this? Ning Chaofan stood up. Huang and Ah He were Qin Hao's people. How could they not bid? Compared with Xiao Han, this was nothing. Ning Chaofan felt that he could completely control it, so he did not mention it to Ning Hongxian and Ning Feiong before. However, the third brother ran over and pointed at Qin Hao's nose, asking him to withdraw. Chaofan, your teacher came from afar and is not familiar with the Ningwu Empire. Our Ningwu Empire is full of outstanding people and beautiful scenery. Take him out to relieve his boredom. Ning Feiong tried to maintain his smile, but his tone was commanding. No, it's good here. Today, the experts of the southern region gathered here. It's an unprecedented grand occasion. Treasures appear frequently. It's perfect for me to broaden my horizons. Qin Hao cupped his hands and smiled. I told you to go, so you go. Ning Feiyong's face darkened. How could he resist? Suddenly, all the forces quieted down. The leaders looked at the confrontation between Ning Feiyong and Qin Hao with some amusement. The auction was going well, but the third prince of the Ning family suddenly came out of the pavilion to drive people away. The sect masters were no fools, especially sect master Tang and Chang Haloa. They couldn't help but laugh. It seemed that even the Ning Wu royal family had limited tolerance. They could not allow Qin Hao to be presumptuous. After all, he had ruined nearly 10 million earth crystals of the Ning family. I can't rely on him anymore. Brother, don't you think he's like a dog? Ha ha ha. Tang Xingqian laughed. Without the support of the Ning family, he's nothing in front of me. Chang Lo said coldly. The disciples of the Spirit Beast sect certainly agreed. Their eldest brother was a genius. The only people in the southern region who could overshadow him were Yu Qianyang and Shouwuk. In normal times, Qin Hao was not even worthy of carrying his eldest brother's shoes. However, yesterday, young Master Ning dared to drive the Spirit Beast sect out of the Wenhua garden and hurt 3 elders for such an insignificant piece of trash. It was outrageous. Your Highness, the third prince, you're a guest. There are nearly 1 million warriors in the square. Why did you drive me away? I bid according to the rules. Did I get in your way? Qin Hao felt that Ning Feiyong's attitude was extremely cold. Was it because of the earth crystals used in the auction? But the earth crystals were from his own pocket. It had nothing to do with Ning Chaofan. From the beginning to the end, Qin Hao had never thought of asking the Ning family to pay for it. Why did I drive you away? Don't you know? Since you saved Chaofan's life, I didn't want to speak too harshly. I even gave you enough face. However, you have no self-awareness. Your greed is insatiable. I can't bear it anymore. The Ning family will no longer let you take whatever you want. Now take your music score, Gu Qin, and be spirit and get out. From now on, the Ning family no longer owes you anything. Ning Feiyong lazily waved his hand at Qin Hao. His words were very clear. He didn't believe that Qin Hao didn't understand. Boom! A huge wave was set off in the square. Millions of people were talking and pointing at Qin Hao as if they were watching a joke. The Ning family's tolerance had really reached the limit. They drove Qin Hao away. However, no one felt that there was anything wrong. Frightening Soul Song was the Zither Emperor's secret art. The Gu Qin and Bee Spirit were also very precious. The Ning family gave these 3 treasures to Qin Hao. It could be considered as repaying him for saving Ning Chaofan's life. In fact, this repayment far surpassed what Qin Hao had paid. And Qin Hao should have followed Ning Feiyong's orders. He should have some self-awareness. Leaving was a wise choice. If he left now, he would still be protected by the Ning family. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to keep these 3 treasures. As for the 2 ancient beasts, don't even think about it. Ning Chaofan, is this the royal bearing of your Ning family? So in your royal brother's eyes, your life is only worth 3 million. Qin Hao also laughed. Chapter 1265. Translator. Henyi Translations Editor. Henyi Translations, who is the stupid one? Of course, life couldn't be measured by money. It was embarrassing for anyone. Qin Hao didn't mean to insult Ning Chaofan. It was Ning Feiyong's attitude. Qin Hao just said it for him. At the moment, Ning Chaofan felt very uncomfortable. He thought about it silently. Was that what his third brother meant? Shut up. Every disciple of the Ning Wu royal family is a noble. How can you value them with vulgar money? Chaofan, he is using you. He is using the great background of the Ning family to satisfy his own selfish desires. Don't be fooled by him. Ning Feiyong scolded. Master, are you using me? Ning Chaofan looked at Qin Hao. He thought so before in the secret territory. At that time, they were forced to unite to survive. They were just using each other. But after coming out, he didn't want to be narrow-minded with Qin Hao. Yes, I am using you. I have been using you since the beginning. Do you understand now? Qin Hao replied with a smile, as calm as ever. His lips curled up in a smile. If one were to look at him purely from the perspective of appreciation, Qin Hao had an innate charm. But at the moment, Ning Chaofan's heart felt like it was hit hard. It was very uncomfortable. You are a foppish, flamboyant, brainless person. You only know how to show off your background. You have such a strong background. If I don't use you, who should I use? But your brother is smart. He saw through me at a glance. You are worthy of being a direct descendant of the Ning Wu royal family. It is admirable. With such a leader, the empire is not far from the golden age. Qin Hao stared at Ning Feiyong. Was he really smart? Or was he a short-sighted idiot? Qin Hao didn't care. He only knew that even though Ning Chaofan was foppish and flamboyant, he was much better than Ning Feiyong in treating people. Golden age? Sad. However, Ning Chaofan didn't think so. He held his head high and enjoyed Qin Hao's praise. He was naturally smarter than Ning Chaofan. Otherwise, how could he be second only to one person and above tens of thousands of people? After all, when Ning Hongxian ascended the throne in the future, he would be the king of politics. Has this prince finally revealed his ugly face? Transcendent, take a closer look. This is your teacher, your savior, a despicable person who is two-faced. In the future, don't just bring random people home. Use your brain. You are the next city lord of Golden Light City. You have a heavy responsibility on your shoulders. Ning Chaofan shook his head. He was very disappointed with Ning Chaofan. This matter was a lesson for him. It doesn't matter if I'm despicable or two-faced. Once I've been seen through by the third prince, I'll naturally leave eldest young Master Ning. So, from this moment on, Ning Chaofan and I have nothing to do with each other. Our relationship as master and disciple ends here. Are you satisfied now? Qin Hao asked. Ning Feiyong was stunned. He was naturally satisfied. This was the result he wanted. It was unexpected that Qin Hao set it out in front of him so cleanly. The other party should have asked for more compensation. Do you know what you're saying? I'll give you 3 seconds to think about it before you speak. Ning Feiyong said with a sullen face. He couldn't wait for Qin Hao to leave. However, he still had to do it to show the generosity of the Ning family. There's no need to think about it. I won't rely on the Ning family to cling to your power. But I won't give up the auction of the ancient beasts. The third prince won't drive me away again, right? Qin Hao replied resolutely. How can a mere scoundrel stay? Guards! Third brother! Ning Chaofan shouted in a hoarse voice. He raised his head and said, Golden Light City is holding a grand auction. Guests will come from everywhere. What's one more? Ning Chaofan was struggling in his heart. He didn't want to believe that Qin Hao would make such a ruthless decision. Just now, his teacher gave him an inferior emperor weapon. He told him to work hard and become strong himself. That was true strength. But things had come to this, and he couldn't change anything. Ning Chaofan knew better than anyone else about Qin Hao's determination to bid for He and Huang. Since he wanted to stay, Ning Chaofan must keep Qin Hao's right to bid. Just take it as repayment for his teacher's teaching during this time. You're the next lord of Golden Light City. You should be in charge of the auction. Ning Feiyong glanced at Qin Hao with disgust. He was extremely fed up with this person. However, he also needed to take care of Ning Chaofan's mood. At this time, he suddenly saw Qing Lao and was slightly startled. Duamu Qingwei? No wonder. Qin Hao simply got rid of the Ning family and found himself a new backer, the leftist faction of the Wanqiu Alliance. Your Highness Feiyong. Qing Lao stood up and cupped his hands. The other party was the future ruler of the martial Ning Empire, and his status was not inferior to his. Ning Feiyong ignored Qing Lao and looked at Qin Hao again. He clicked his tongue and praised. Your flattery and thigh-hugging skill is really amazing. You abandoned our Ning family and latched onto the great elder of the Wanqiu Alliance's leftist faction. You're really awesome. However, there is one thing that this prince has to say. You are extremely stupid. How could the Wanqiu Alliance compare with the Ning family? Now that the Wanqiu Alliance was almost finished, as long as Nan Ao launched an all-out attack, Duamu Qingwei wouldn't be able to hold on for 7 days. Ning Feiyang's information was very accurate. The great elder of the Wanqiu Alliance's leftist faction? Qin Hao looked at Qing Lao with some surprise. Your status is so high? Qin Hao didn't know before. If he knew, he wouldn't have chatted with Qing Lao so unscrupulously. It was really rude. Little friend, don't be so reserved, Qing Lao said kindly. Enough, Duamu Qing Wei. Who are you acting for? This prince didn't expect that you would dare to come to the martial Ning Empire to participate in this auction. Xinyuan Wuba is sitting in the attic. Are you courting death? Ning Feiong was happy. The two sides were about to face a war of destruction, but the leader of the Wanxiu alliance took the initiative to run to the enemy. How many heads did he have? Xinyuan Wuba? Qing Lao stared at the Xinyuan family's attic. Although he didn't know what was going on, he could vaguely guess from Ning Feiong's tone. It seemed that the Xinyuan family had made a move against the Wanxiu alliance. Old Man is attending the auction as a guest. Is it possible that the martial Ning Empire will let Xinyuan Wuba run amok? Qing Lao wasn't worried about his situation. If Xinyuan Wuba made a move, it would be a slap to the Ning family's face. In the martial Ning Empire, he naturally won't. However, outside the martial Ning Empire, you have to be careful. Ning Feiong gloated, then pointed at Qin Hao. Do you see? Even Duanmu Qing Wei has to rely on the protection of my Ning family. Are you stupid or not to rely on him? Who cares what you do? Please disappear from my sight. Qin Hao had no relationship with Ning Chao Fan, so he didn't need to be polite to his third brother. You, third brother, do you still want to continue the auction? Ning Chaofan's face was red as he roared at the direct family members. Okay, I'll give face to the Golden Light City's lord. Ning Feiong really wanted to slap Qin Hao to death. After saying that, he slowly descended. He didn't plan to go back. He wanted to see how long Qin Hao could jump around after losing the Ning family and following the old man Duamu. As for bidding for the ancient beasts, he wanted to see where Qin Hao's confidence came from. Without the support of the Ning family, how could he compete with them? Go and find out what's going on between the white-haired warrior and the Ning family, the elegant scholar said to a blue-clothed imperial servant beside him. He had been watching silently, and his face was not good at the moment. Not to mention other things, Ning Feiong's behavior alone had lost the demeanor of the Ning family. This was something that the elegant scholar absolutely couldn't tolerate. Yes, Your Highness. The blue-clothed middle-aged man disappeared silently. Even he felt that Ning Feiong had lost the demeanor of the imperial family. Nine Heavens Divine Emperor. Chapter 1266. Not long after, the blue-robed imperial servant returned and reported to the scholar. The collapse of the coiling dragon wonder and the fact that Qin Hao had brought the young master of the Ning family back to Golden Light City safely was no secret. The news had already spread in the city yesterday. After hearing the cause of the incident, the scholar frowned. His expression was solemn as he slowly clenched his fists. Good, very good. My father always said that a drop of water should be repaid with a spring. A day of kindness. The Ning family will remember it for life. The hatred of a broken tooth must be repaid with the enemy's head. This is the ancestral teaching and the foundation of Ningwu Kingdom. I always remember it. Today, it was an eye-opener. A direct descendant of the family actually despised his savior and even drove him out of the door. Is this the style of the descendants of the fifth old ancestor? The scholar muttered to himself. He had really learned something. Was the ancestral teaching that his father had asked him to remember so unbearable in the eyes of the current ruler of Ningwu royal family? The scholar was thinking carefully. He was very quiet and there were no distracting thoughts in his eyes. However, even the two imperial servants beside him could deeply feel the young master's suppressed anger. They could not help but feel nervous. They had watched the scholar grow up. On the surface, the young master did not like to interact with people. He was intoxicated with music and stood aloof from worldly affairs. In fact, he had been ambitious since he was young, and he had the ambition of an emperor. Now that they had seen the descendants of the fifth old ancestor act like this, they were afraid that something bad was going to happen. Uncle Kong, the scholar said. I'm here. The middle-aged man replied. There was sweat on his forehead. All the white-haired martial artist's expenses will be paid by the royal family of Ding. The scholar ordered. Of course. The middle-aged man heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, the young master did not bicker with the descendants of the fifth old ancestor. Otherwise, Ningwu Kingdom would have an earth-shaking turmoil. As for Qin Hao's expenses, the middle-aged man did not feel that there was anything wrong with it. On the contrary, it was the most appropriate. But, young master, I'm afraid the money we brought this time is not enough to pay for it. The middle-aged man was slightly embarrassed. Previously, when Qin Hao bid for the music score in Guqin, he gave them to the scholar. Although it was a gift, the scholar did not let Qin Hao suffer any losses. She would pay as much as she paid for it. However, the price of the two ancient beasts had already reached a whopping 6 million. It was obvious that the price would continue to rise and exceed the wealth that the middle-aged man had brought. If it's not enough, we'll go back and get it. At least, Qin Hao would not have to face the threat of the Ning family if he left the Ning family support. Roar! The dog's spirit whispered, as if urging Qin Hao to continue. However, it didn't notice the slight change in Qin Hao's expression. Tang Du, you old bastard. Qin Hao's heart was filled with hatred. He clenched his fists and shouted, 7 million. Boom! The square was shocked again. 7 million. After losing the Ning family, the white-haired martial artist still dared to continue bidding. Where did his confidence come from? Uncle, you can't lose to him. Tang Xingqian and Chang Helo were anxious. They couldn't wait to chop Qin Hao into pieces. Tang Du's body trembled violently. The price had already reached 7 million. If he continued to bid, the herbal medicine hall might not be able to breathe for several years. However, as soon as he saw the eager gazes of the people around him, Tang Du couldn't control himself. Yes, he couldn't lose. If not, where would his prestige as the sect master be? 5 million. Tang Du roared. Blue veins popped out on his forehead. Creak! Qin Hao clenched his fists and stared sharply at Tang Du. He knew how much money he had brought on this trip better than the dog spirit, and care? He really didn't have enough money. It wasn't that he couldn't compete with the herbal medicine hall, but before he left, Haidafu had only given him this much. After all, Qin Hao couldn't carry the entire dragon crystal mine with him. 7 million earth crystals was his limit. If the refined scholar hadn't given him 3 million earth crystals, he wouldn't have been able to compete. Brother-in-law, what's wrong? Finally realized that something was wrong. Could it be that he had run out of money? But she didn't have any money on her. I never cared about money. She always took whatever she liked. Anyway, her sister would pay for her. Kid, why aren't you saying anything? Are you frightened by the old man's wealth? Tang Du saw that Qin Hao didn't increase the price and was delighted. Ha ha ha. Tang Xingqian laughed. He pointed at Qin Hao and said, You've been pretending for so long. Now that you've lost the Ning family, you've revealed your true colors? His meaning was obvious. Qin Hao was poor. Perhaps he didn't have any money at all and had been shouting for nothing. If that was really the case, it was too vicious. Young friend, the old man has some earth crystals here. Although it's not a lot, I don't have anywhere to spend them. Take them. Qing Lao saw that Qin Hao was a little tight and handed him a ring. Take mine too. Gu Huangshou took off his ring and slapped it into Qin Hao's palm. Qin Hao felt a warmth in his heart. He had seen how stingy Gu Huangshou was in the star refining tower. Back then, Gu Huangshou had plundered a piece of frost iron the size of a thumb from Ganjian. At this moment, the old man gave his ring to Qin Hao. This junior will remember your kindness in his heart. Qin Hao saluted and held the ring in his palm. This was the main ring, not a separate ring. It contained all of Qin Lao and Gu Huangshou's property, including the deep-sea jade dragon pearl, a sacred item that could help one break through to the emperor rank. How much trust did it take to hand all of this over to Qin Hao? As Qin Hao said, he was currently weak and couldn't immediately repay the other party. He could only say a word of thanks. Ning Feiyang watched and snorted at Qin Lao and Master Gu's actions. Duanmu Qing Wei, are you afraid that no one will notice you? Do you want to stand out and tell His Highness Xianyuan Wuba that you are right under his nose? Tang Du couldn't help but angrily shout. He had just gained a bit of the upper hand. What does my life or death have to do with you? Qing Lao imitated Qin Hao's tone and coldly replied. You? Tang Du's nose was crooked from anger as he cursed. Fine. If you can safely return to the Myriad Cultivator Alliance today, I, Tang Du, will write my name backwards from now on. Duanmu Qing Wei couldn't even protect himself, yet he still stood out against him. He must personally witness Duanmu Qing Hui's tragic end. Once Duanmu Qing Wei died, Tang Du would undoubtedly become the #1 alchemist in the Southern Territory. He couldn't wait for this to happen. At this moment, he was a bit excited. Chapter 1267. When Qin Hao was in trouble, the Ning family should have been the one to solve it. However, in the end, it was Duanmu Qing Wei and Master Gu who helped him selflessly. Ning Chaofan saw this and felt very guilty. The Golden Light City branch had never been so stingy to the family servants. Qin Hao was their benefactor, but when he needed help, they turned a blind eye. This person has nothing to do with you. Why worry about him? Ning Feiong warned in a low voice. He would never allow Ning Chaofan to be deceived by Qin Hao again. You are the prince of the Ning family. You are right. Ning Chaofan said coldly, without his previous enthusiasm. Ning Feiong looked unhappy. For an outsider, he didn't even call him Third Imperial Brother. However, he didn't say anything. Tom would tell who was right and who was wrong. 10 million earth crystals. Tang Du shouted again, glaring fiercely in the direction of Qin Hao and Qing Lao. He was ready to risk everything. Going all out? Come on. He wasn't afraid of Duanmu Qing Wei. He knew very well that the first elder of the left faction of the 10,000 Cultivator Alliance was not a competent alchemist. He rarely refined pills and was always busy with government affairs. He had a lot of money, but how could he compare to a sect leader who had established his own sect? Even so, when he shouted out 10 million, Tang Du himself trembled a few times and his heart twitched fiercely. 10 million was enough to create an Emperor Stage powerhouse. His heart was bleeding. At this moment, the auction room was once again stirred up. The martial artists were shocked by Tang Du's boldness. At the same time, they mourned for Qin Hao. Qin Hao had just received help, but before he could say anything, Master Tang raised the price by 10 million again. This was not allowing Qin Hao to make a comeback. He was completely suppressing him. Tang Du, that old bastard. Master Gu was so angry that his mouth trembled and his seat was deformed. In this situation, Qin Hao was going to lose. Previously, he had sold the 3 Emperor weapons for less than 1 million earth crystals. Duanmu Qing Wei sold 5 Emperor-level medicinal pills. Due to the interference of the proud northernly family, the price of the first one was abnormally high. Later on, the 4 pills were sold at the normal price, and they were only sold for a little over 1 million. Qin Hao had 7 million, and with the 3 of them combined, they barely had 9 million. Of course, Qin Hao still had a few pieces of heaven crystal stones in his ring. However, a few heaven crystals could not affect the overall situation. He had never thought of going to the southern region to participate in such a grand auction. Young friend, don't be too stubborn, Qing Lao said. They had already done their best. Qin Hao had also done his best. Qin Hao smiled faintly. He knew that Qing Lao was trying to persuade him. Stubbornness. Saving He Huang was a completely different matter. However, Qin Hao was not nervous. He looked towards the pavilion of Night Luo Palace. It was time for the old demon to make a move. Just as everyone was looking forward to how Qin Hao would resolve Master Tang's attack, they heard a man's voice come from the pavilion of Night Luo Palace. Everyone saw a middle-aged man wearing a green hat poke his head out of the window. His vulgar eyes darted around as he said with a smile, "The Herbal Hall lives up to its reputation as the #1 alchemist in the southern region. Night Luo Palace will withdraw from the competition. Also, the white-haired brother below, I feel like you're an old friend at first sight. I'm willing to help you with 3 million earth crystals and have a showdown with Master Tang again." As he spoke, the old demon threw out a blue light. The storage ring inside flew into the air and floated in front of Qin Hao. I can't refuse your kindness. Thank you. Qin Hao smiled and grabbed the ring. There was no need to check. If the old demon said there was 3 million, then there must be 3 million. At this moment, this guy was hiding in the pavilion of Night Luo Palace. His head was glowing with health. Looking at the old demon's expression, it was as if he had just undergone intense exercise. Could it be that he really did the palace lord? Qin Hao was speechless. He was not in a hurry to reunite with the old demon. At this moment, he looked at Tang Du. Master Tang covered his heart with his palm. A trace of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth uncontrollably. He leaned back. If he was not supported by someone, he would have fallen. His expression was extremely ugly and twisted. He looked in the direction of Night Luo Palace. Why did this happen? The top faction, Night Luo Palace, provided Qin Hao with 3 million earth crystals. Moreover, the head that was exposed was clearly a man's. Since when did Night Luo Palace accept male disciples? Not only did Tang Du vomit blood, but everyone in the square also looked at the old demon in shock and bewilderment. What are you looking at? Do I need to make such a fuss when I'm recruiting a husband? Take advantage of this auction and listen carefully. His name is Su Yongfu. He's my husband, Yininghong's holy king. A sharp rebuke resounded throughout the square from the pavilion of Night Luo Palace. The impact of the sound was so strong that the starry sky barrier set up by the 7 half-step Yuan Thearchs trembled violently. The eardrums of millions of people seemed to be torn apart. So strong. 9-star Great Tharch. Palace Lord, ye really came in person. Oh my God, she's married. The #1 beauty of the southern region, the #1 Great Tharch powerhouse, is married. How can this be? How can this be? The square was in an uproar. Everyone covered their ears and stared at the pavilion of Night Luo Palace in horror. Since you've made an agreement with Master Tang, you can just hand over the ancient beast directly, a divine temple expert said. Thank you. Tang Du raised his head and stroked his beard as he stepped forward. Wait. Qin Hao stepped forward and blocked in front of Master Tang. He was 1.8 meters tall, and the 2 strands of white hair in front of his forehead moved without wind. His arrogant aura made Master Tang, who was the primitive emperor, feel that he was half a head shorter. Kid, this is not a place for you to behave atrociously. Back off for the old man. Master Tang said in a low voice. His primordial chi surged and his robes fluttered. The one who should back off is you. Qin Hao looked at him coldly. Then he smiled at the heroes from all sides. The Blazing Sun Temple, one of the 7 great holy lands of the southern region, was so disappointing. They took Ah He and Huang away forcefully, but Qin Hao did not care. Auctioning off his friends, but Qin Hao tolerated it. Even so, Qin Hao gave Temple enough face and did not expose them on the spot. Instead, he was willing to use money to redeem Ah He and Huang through an auction. But who knew? Going back on your words, you have no credibility. You bid and withdraw as you wish. Do you think the heroes who participated in the ceremony are monkeys? City Lord Ning, you are the City Lord of Golden Light City. The auction is the property of the Ning family. Are you going to take care of it? Qin Hao looked at the Ning family's pavilion. The Ning family was the host. Blazing Sun Temple could withdraw the auction, but they had to get the Ning family's consent. Otherwise, it would be a slap to the Ning family's face. At this moment, the millions of people in the square followed Qin Hao's gaze. That's right, Blazing Sun Temple was not very righteous. If everyone did what they did, the Ning family's auction would be a joke. In the crowd, Ning Feiyong sneered. Did they finally remember the Ning family? In the end, Qin Hao still had to ask them to come forward. However, Ning Feiyong couldn't make the decision. He needed Ning Hongshuan's approval. In fact, City Lord Ning couldn't sit still. When Qin Hao shouted the word approved, he had violated the rules of the auction. At this moment, when he heard Qin Hao shout, City Lord Ning stood up and subconsciously wanted to shout, "I won't allow it." Approved. Suddenly, a voice that was completely opposite to City Lord Ning's tone came out from the pavilion. City Lord Ning's body shook. He looked at Ning Hongxian with a complicated expression. He felt very uncomfortable. He couldn't understand why the crown prince would give such an order that would lose the reputation of the Ning family. The martial Ning Empire's auction was held once every 5 years. It was very grand. As the City Lord of Golden Light City, City Lord Ning had organized it several times. Today, he didn't hold the right to control it because his immediate family had arrived. Then, the herbal elixir hall was removed from the southern region. Second, Ning Hongxian of the martial Ning Empire sacrificed his entire empire for 2 ancient beasts. He was reduced from a high and mighty crown prince to a gravekeeper. This day was also called the upheaval caused by 10 million by the later generations of the southern region. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.